Chapter 396. Fang Yixing was still drinking, Zhao Qingxin was still smiling, Fang Hao was still chewing on the bone in his mouth, and Fang Yisin and Fang Yiling were still chatting casually. Fang Yixing was still drinking, Zhao Qingxin was still smiling, Fang Hao was still chewing on the bone in his mouth, and Fang Yisin and Fang Yiling were still gossiping, but the voices at the table suddenly stopped, and there was a moment of silence. Fang Yixing frowned slightly, and Fang Huwei's dark face looked even worse. Fang Huwei had very little contact with his son-in-law, but he could feel the pride in his third son-in-law's bones even from thousands of miles away. He was a very traditional man, but he was quite open-minded when it came to his children's love affairs. As long as you like it, I'll like it with you. When his daughter brought Zhou Fan to visit for the first time, he behaved well. The young man had delicate features, was gentle and smart. Although he always talked with an air of arrogance, wasn't that what a young man should do? Later, Zhou Fan's position became higher and higher under his father's guidance, and he received more and more compliments, so his self-confidence swelled. He was like this in front of outsiders and also in front of his own family. This made Fang Huwei unhappy. Fang Huwei stared at Zhou Fan and said, "I think it's good to be a teacher. Teaching and educating people is a good thing. It's a great thing to cultivate talents for the country. You don't have to worry about Fang Yan's work." Fang Huwei put down his chopsticks and said, "You guys eat. I'll go back to my room to rest. I'm getting old and can't sit still anymore." Hearing that their father was going back to his room, Fang Yisin and Fang Yiling quickly got up and pushed the old man to the backyard. Zhou Fan's proposal was opposed by his father-in-law, so he was a little unhappy. He said, "It's not that I want to say that our father is going against him, but the thinking of the older generation has to change. Think about it, what era are we living in? Teaching and educating people is a good thing for the country. But we have to think about our children, don't we? Fang Yan isn't young anymore. How much can a teacher earn in a month? How many years of salary can he buy a house in Huaqing or Yanjing? Without a house, what will Fang Yan do when he gets married? Bring a girl to this village? Once a girl comes and sees how remote this village is, she will run away in fear. What's wrong with this village? Ordinary girls can't even come in." Zhao Qingxin sneered. "Qingxin, I didn't say this village is bad. But nowadays young girls are willing to live in the city. Who can stand the coldness of this village? They feel new living in this village for a few days, but if they live here for a year they will go crazy. Even if Fang Yan brings her along when he goes to Huaqing to work, he still has to buy a house in Huaqing, right? How do you know that Fang Yan cannot afford to buy a house? Can't a teacher afford a house?" Fang Hao retorted. Fang Yan was worried that the three of them would quarrel at the table, so he quickly stepped forward to smooth things over. He raised his cup with a smile and said, "Little uncle's words are very reasonable, and you are also thinking of me. Come, let me toast to you three uncles." Yin Yang and said, "Fan, Yin Fang Fan I Fang Yin Fang, I Yin Fan I Yin Fang. If you were someone else I wouldn't have to say this. Think about what I said. Our bank will invest over 100 million yuan in Mingzhu to set up a financial service company. If you are interested, I will arrange for you to work in this service company. You will have a better future and income than being a teacher. After a few years I can get you a house in Mingzhu." "Thank you, uncle. I will think about it carefully." Fang Yan nodded with a smile. Zhou Fan was satisfied. He looked at Fang Hao and Zhao Qingxin and said, "You can't always stay in this village." "This village? How good can it be? Yijing also told me that this village used to have a lot of great people. But how many years has it been? Hundreds of years? We can't always hold on to the glory of our ancestors. We have to look forward, right?" Zhao Qingxin trembled with anger and deliberately said, "We want to go out, but we have to arrange a way for you." Zhou Fan felt the hostility in Zhao Qingxin's words, so he didn't really want to help him. He said, "If there is a suitable opportunity, I will arrange it for you." The meal ended on a bad note. Zhou Fan went back to the room he and Fang Yijing lived in. He lay on the bed and said, "I think your family is hostile to me." "Why is it hostile to you?" Fang Yijing was packing her luggage and asked casually. "Every time a fortune teller comes he will fall. I can see that the boy really suffered a loss in the hands of Fang Yan. Otherwise he wouldn't be so emotional. And your father, when I said I would arrange a job for Fang Yan, he looked at me as if he wanted to eat me. I mean well, don't I? If it were someone else I wouldn't have to worry about it." Fang Yijing stopped what she was doing and sat on the bed. She said to her husband gently, "Zhou Fan, Swallow Dock is a very special place. The people here are naturally more arrogant than others." Zhou Fan sneered and said, "Poor village people, a group of country bumpkins who have never seen the world. What is there to be proud of? Fang Yujing sighed softly. She wanted to talk to her husband about this countless times, but she was always rebuffed by this kind of sarcasm. Yes, Swallow Dock had been silent for 100 years, but the glory and spirit of their ancestors still existed. Moreover, the villagers here had been silently protecting this country and its people with their loyalty and lives. They had bled for this country, they had lost their lives for this country. They had the right to be proud and arrogant. No matter who it was, they should be more tolerant to such a group. They should allow their pride, accept their arrogance, and let them feel that they were being respected. However, her husband only believed what he saw with his eyes. The village he saw was so remote, the houses so old, the village roads so broken, and the young people hiding in the village doing nothing. Even his son Zhou Mingli looked down on Swallow Dock. He felt that the village his mother was born in was too poor. She had always wanted to bring her husband and son here, so that they could beat with the pulse of Swallow Dock. Now it seemed that this wish was really hard to achieve. Zhou Fan, you should let go of your prejudices, look with clear eyes and think with a rational mind. Swallow Dock is really a place that people should be proud of. Before Fang Yujing finished her words, her husband's snoring could be heard. At 6 o'clock in the morning, Fang Yin had already washed up and went to the yard to practice. After returning home, he could not neglect his martial arts. Grandpa did not care about anything else, but he was very strict with this area. Fang Yin had just finished a round of plum blossom steps when Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan also came over in casual clothes. The three greeted each other with their eyes and then began to practice. After a while, Fang Menjing and Fang Mingxiang also came out. Every new year, eldest aunt and second aunt's family would live in the old house, so Fang Menjing and Fang Mingxiang had to practice with Fang Yin. Fang Hao and Zhao Qingxin also had to practice, but they would practice in the Fang family's martial arts hall, not with the younger generation. Zhou Mingli had also woken up. He wore a thick down jacket and held an iPad in his hand. When he saw Fang Yin leading a group of people to practice, he pouted and began to play games on the iPad. The sound of the game was very loud, and it brought a lot of noise to the people who were practicing. Can you turn off the sound? Fang Mingxiang had the least concentration, and when he heard the sound of fighting in the game, his attention was drawn away. I'm playing my own game, what does it have to do with you? Zhou Mingli naturally would not listen to a child. Do you believe that I will hit you? Fang Mingxiang said angrily. To Fang Mingxiang, Zhou Mingli, who could not even walk steadily, was no match for him. Fang Mingxiang, Fang Yin said to Fang Mingxiang as he practiced, keep your voice low and focus your mind. These noises are your obstacles. Only by overcoming these obstacles can you become a master like your father. Fang Mingxiang admired Fang Yin very much. After hearing Fang Yan's words, he said, I don't want to become a master like my father, I want to become a master like big brother Fang Yin. Okay. Fang Yin smiled and nodded. It felt good to have a hardcore fan at home. Then practice hard. Don't be disturbed by the noise outside. Okay. I will. Fang Mingxiang closed his eyes and focused on practicing his stance. As expected, he was no longer disturbed by external forces. Zhou Mingli sneered and said, you can only fool children. Zhou Fan had drunk too much last night, so he got up late today. After washing up, he did not want to stay with the Fang family, so he got up and took a walk in the village. When he walked to the entrance of the village, he saw a row of cars driving toward the village. There were cars coming to such a remote and rundown village? When he saw the license plate number, his heart could not help but beat faster, and his face was full of disbelief. He rubbed his eyes and looked again. The cars were right and the license plate number was right. One of the cars' license plate number was the car of his leader's leader. He had seen the leader from afar when he went to Yanjing Hotel to pay a New Year's visit to his immediate superior. Why did he come to this poor and rundown village? Could it be that the leader also came from this village? Thinking of this possibility, Zhou Fan's heart pounded fiercely. Here's my chance. Zhou Fan ran to the village behind the motorcade. He met an old man who was collecting dung. He pointed to the cars and asked, Uncle, which cars belong to which family? Which family? The old man looked up and said, to the Yi family. The third son of the Yi family is back. Chapter 397. The 29th of the 12th month, also known as Little New Year's Eve. Every family held a banquet, people came and went to visit other people. And burning incense outdoors was called heavenly incense. It usually took 3 days. When Fang Yin sat in the living room chatting with his mother and aunt, Yi Fengxing came to find Fang Yin, saying that his third uncle was back and asked him to go to his house for lunch. Fang Yin glanced at his mother Lu Wan. Lu Wan smiled and said, Fengxing came to invite you, just go. Anyway, your aunt won't be leaving for a while. We'll talk when you come back tonight. Fang Yan nodded and said, I'll be there soon. Yi Fengxing saw that Fang Yan had a guest, so he didn't stay any longer and said, I'll wait for you at home. Go there early. Third uncle said he wants you to help pour wine at noon. There's a guest at home? Third uncle's guest. Yi Fengxing said. Yi Daoling used to be in charge of the research of Wuxia's economic system, so he naturally had to be surrounded by many big shots in the financial system. Now that he was promoted and held an important position, there would naturally be more people crowding around him. Tomorrow was New Year's Eve. No matter how busy Yi Daoling was, he would come back to have a reunion dinner with the Yi family's ancestor. It was reasonable that his subordinates received the news and came to visit Yi Daoling in advance. However, why did he ask him, a junior of the Fang family, to go there? If it was just pouring wine. Yi Fengxing could do it well. Although his image was worse than him, he was still a descendant of the Yi family, wasn't he? Yi Fengxing left, but Zhou Fan came back. He looked serious and seemed to have something on his mind. He made an excuse to ask his wife to help find a tie and pulled Fang Yijing to the room. He closed the door and whispered, Is there a Yi family in Swallow Dock? There is a Yi family. Fang Yijing looked at her husband in confusion and said, Why do you ask? Zhou Fan was excited. He grabbed his wife's hand and asked, How is the relationship between your two families? Do you have any contact? Aren't people from the countryside all related to each other? Are you relatives? No. Fang Yijing shook her head. The relationship between the Fang and Yi families has never been good, and they're even hostile towards each other. Zhou Fan, what are you trying to say? How did the Yi family provoke you? Fang Yijing was telling the truth. In the past, the relationship between the Yi family and the Fang family was not harmonious. Every year, when Fang Yan and Yi Rou competed, the Yi family and the Fang family always regarded each other as their biggest rivals and often criticized each other. Now that her husband asked about the relationship between the two families, she could only tell him what she knew before. She didn't know that Fang Yan had taken the little princess of the Yi family, Yi Rou, for a walk by the Shihizi River. Zhou Fan could not vent his anger, so he said in a muffled voice, Your Fang family will be killed by your own stupidity. For such a high-level leader to pay a visit to the Yi family, it proved that the Yi family must have an extraordinary existence. They both resided in Swallow Dock, yet the Fang family actually had a conflict with the Yi family. Wasn't this just seeking death? His wish to use the Fang clan's connections to build a relationship with the Yi clan had been dashed, so he was naturally in a bad mood. Zhou Fan, how can you say that? Fang Yijing was angry and yelled. Zhou Fan loved his wife very much. Seeing that Fang Yijing was mad, he did not want to argue with her anymore. He snorted and said, We will be dragged down by your family sooner or later. Who will drag you down? If you don't want us to drag you down, go home. I know you don't want to come here and I know you look down on us. If so, don't come here anymore. Fang Yijing was also irritated by her husband's arrogant attitude. She pointed at the door and yelled, Let's go. Who do you think wants to come here? Zhou Fan could not suppress his anger anymore and yelled. Hearing the argument in the room, Lu Wan, Fang Yisin, Fang Yiling, and the others who were chatting outside all came in. Lu Wan was the mistress of the family. She asked, Yijing, Zhou Fan, what happened? Why are you arguing? Fang Yijing did not want to say bad things about her husband in front of her sister-in-law. It would only embarrass her even more. Zhou Fan hated the Fang family, so he did not want to answer Lu Wan's question either. It's the Spring Festival. What can we talk about? Fang Yisin was the eldest sister. She walked over and held her younger sister's hand. She said, If each of you give way, the conflict will be solved. You finally come back for the Spring Festival. Why are you quarreling? We are a family after all. Don't be a joke to outsiders, right? Fang Yijing felt bitter, but she could not say anything. Zhou Fan felt very upset, so he went to the yard to smoke. Fang Yan stood next to the plum tree in the yard and heard the argument between Fang Yisin and Zhou Fan clearly. Seeing Zhou Fan coming out, Fang Yan said with a smile, Uncle, do you really want the Fang family and the Yi family to be on good terms? Zhou Fan's face froze. He lit the cigarette in his hand and took a puff. He said with a straight face, Isn't it reasonable for neighbors to be on good terms? It is. Fang Yan nodded and said. So, through my efforts, the Fang family and the Yi family are now as close as a family. Really? Zhou Fan was overjoyed. If what Fang Yan said was true, then wouldn't it be reasonable for him to visit the Yi family? If he could have a chance to have a meal with that leader, no, just a casual chat to let him have a deeper understanding of himself, then it would also have a profound promotion and push for his future, wouldn't it? Seeing Zhou Fan's happy expression, Fang Yin reached out and touched the thick and cold branches of the plum tree. He said, "What's that saying again? A close neighbor is better than a distant relative." I didn't have a clear understanding of this saying before. A distant relative is still a relative. How can a neighbor be better than a relative? Now I realized that what he said made sense. Some relatives really don't treat their own family members as human beings. Zhou Fan's eyes were slightly cold, but he forcibly suppressed the hostility in his heart. He said with a smile, "I chatted with your aunt for a bit. Don't take it to heart. Who hasn't quarreled in a family? Relatives are relatives after all. If I didn't treat you as relatives, would I have taken the initiative to suggest finding a job for you last night? Do you know how many people come to me for help with their work problems every day?" "Yes. That's why I have to thank you for your kindness, uncle." Fang Yin nodded and said, "But I have to be honest, after a night of careful consideration, I still decided to go to Huaqing to be a teacher. Because this is a job I like and also, a job that can give me more insight into life." After becoming a teacher, Fang Yin understood the importance of responsibility. After becoming a teacher, Fang Yin understood the importance of morality and rules. It was only after Fang Yin became a teacher that he realized the preciousness of writing Gaul. Civil officials were not greedy for money, and military generals did not hesitate to die. They would definitely be able to win the respect of all the countries in the world. Even a mere scholar, as long as he had a writing Gaul to protect himself, he would be able to break through the dragon's pool and tiger's den. It was also during his time as a teacher in Huaqing that Fang Yin glimpsed the spirit of writing Gaul from his grandfather, Lu Gong. That was why his Tai Chi heart, which had been silent for a long time, trembled and began to spin again. He disregarded life and death and took the risk to accept the challenge from the Thousand Leaves army, which led to another breakthrough in his Tai Chi heart. Wasn't it because his heart was cleansed and his soul was sublimated? According to Fang Yan's personality in the past, he would definitely turn around and run when he met a top expert like the Thousand Leaves army. Then he would crawl into the Yi family and never come out again. Fang Yan was grateful for his trip to Huaqing, for Rosefinch High, and for everyone he met on this trip. Of course, Jiang Junling was an exception. It was because of them that his life was so exciting and fulfilling. The Fang family also understood the significance of Rosefinch High to Fang Yan, so no one asked Fang Yan to leave. Even Fang Huwei felt that his grandson had gained a lot from this trip. If he could break through the realm again, it would be a great thing for the Fang family. This was also the reason why everyone had a strange expression when Zhou Fan proposed to help Fang Yin find a job last night. Zhou Fan was like a poor millionaire. No matter how hard he tried to show off his wealth, the millionaires in the audience wouldn't give him warm applause. For the men of Swallow Dock, improving their martial arts was the most important thing. "Since this is your choice, I will express my understanding and respect," Zhou Fan said with a smile. He didn't care where Fang Yin was going to work or if he had a job. "You said that the Fang family and the Yi family are as close as a family? But just now your aunt said, the two families didn't get along very well? Yi Daoling, does uncle know this person?" Fang Yin asked with a smile. Zhou Fan's pupils shrank and his breathing became rapid. Yi Daoling, if he was still unfamiliar with him before, then with his latest transfer order being released through various media, it had attracted the attention of the entire country. It was an extremely rare opportunity to get in touch with a leader like Yi Daoling. He tried hard to control his excitement and said, "Yi Daoling is also from Swallow Dock?" "Yes." Fang Yin nodded with a smile. "Just now, his nephew came to me and said that third uncle Yi asked me to go to their house for lunch. It is said that some guests came to their house and I have to go pour some wine. Why should I go pour wine for them? I really don't want to go." Zhou Fan opened his mouth. After a long time he said softly, "How about I go with you? I have accumulated some experience in pouring wine." "That won't do." Fang Yin refused. "They didn't invite you. I don't want to invite you either. If I rashly bring you in and make the master unhappy, what about our Fang family?" Chapter 398. What will happen to the Fang family if you drag us down? At first glance, this sentence sounded somewhat familiar. He thought about it and remembered that it was something he said when he was arguing with his wife, Fang Yijing. Of course, what he said was, "We will be dragged down by your family sooner or later." He said it as if it was a matter of course, but it was filled with anger and resentment. Why did it sound so ear-piercing, like he was mocking him? Zhou Fan understood that Fang Yin was taking revenge. He had heard what she had said just now and then returned the favor. It had to be said that the feeling of stabbing oneself to death with one's own poison sword was really unbearable. Zhou Fan's face turned livid. He stared at Fang Yan with anger in his eyes and said, "Fang Yan, what are you talking about? No matter what, I'm still your uncle, your elder. How can you be so disrespectful to your elders? Didn't you say that the villagers of Swallow Dock are very particular about etiquette? Is this what you call etiquette?" Fang Yan laughed and said, "Uncle, are you angry?" Zhou Fan felt like he was stabbed in the chest again. No, it was one slash after another. There was no pause at all. Although it was a simple question, why did it sound so infuriating? "It's right to be angry," Fang Yan said with a smile. "Because when I heard what you said, I was angry too. Uncle, actually, our Swallow Dock is really a reasonable place. Not only do we respect etiquette, but we also respect reason. If others respect us, we will respect them tenfold. This was the etiquette of reciprocity. We will not offend those who do not offend us, but if we are offended, we will return the favor. This is the principle of distinguishing kindness and hatred. You don't talk etiquette to us and you don't reason with us. Swallow Dock naturally won't show etiquette or reason with you. So you have a reason to humiliate your elder in this way?" Zhou Fan sneered. He had not been humiliated like this for many years. Fang Yan's behavior was equivalent to openly offending him. "How is it humiliating? This is the principle that if someone offends me, I will return the favor. This is the first iron rule of our Swallow Dock that has existed for 1,000 years. I know, I always thought that you looked down on the Fang clan. Your Zhou family is considered the #1 figure in Mingzhu's banking system. What does our Fang family have? A cripple, a drunkard, a bookworm, a woman and a child. Far away in a deserted village, living in an old house. What's so special about you? So, year after year, you didn't want to step into the Fang family's door. Sometimes Auntie came back alone, but you and your son were nowhere to be seen. Auntie never complained about you, nor did she say anything bad about you. She always explained that you were too busy with work and couldn't travel with us. Actually, we're not stupid. We all know what the real situation is. We understand Auntie's difficulties. We didn't want to expose her, we didn't want to embarrass our sister-in-law. On one side were her parents, brother and sister-in-law. On the other side were her husband and son. Both sides were flesh. Which side could she stand on? Sister-in-law says you're very busy, so we'll assume that you're really busy. Auntie says you don't have time to come back, so we comforted her and told her that it's okay. You can come back together next time. Auntie is my auntie, my father's sister, and my grandfather's daughter. We all want her to live a happy life, and we don't want her to suffer any grievances in the Zhou family. We think that if we are more lenient and take care of you, you'll be able to feel our kindness and you'll treat my auntie better. Obviously, you don't have this kind of awareness. You think leniency is cowardice and care is flattery. Our Fang family is a piece of chicken ribs to you. It's tasteless to eat and you'll lose face if you abandon it. You must be feeling very complicated this time, right? Fang Yan, that's just your personal opinion? How I treat your auntie, let her speak for herself. Zhou Fan defended himself. Fang Yan nodded in agreement with Zhou Fan's words. He said, "I don't deny that. To be honest, you're really good to auntie. If you weren't good to auntie, our Fang family would have gone to your door to ask for an explanation. Grandfather has entrusted his daughter, whom he has raised for more than 20 years to you. What right do you have to treat her badly? You've always been worried that our Fang family will drag you down, and you think coming to our Fang family is a waste of time. From the moment your car stopped in front of our Fang family's courtyard, you've been full of hostility, or rather anger. Because of our existence you had to come with auntie. Uncle, we used to think for auntie's sake and we thought that everything was fine. But time and time again you've belittled and insulted us. As a member of the Fang family, I have to stand up and say something. You're an idiot." Fang Yan pointed at his own legs and said, "Can't you see such a thick thigh? And you're always thinking about hugging someone else's thigh. If you're not an idiot, then what are you? I've heard that officials have bright eyes, but are your eyes covered with sh*t? Zhou Fan was amused by Fang Yan's words. He pointed at Fang Yan and said, "Fang Yan, I don't understand. What are you so proud of? Just because your Fang family has a good relationship with the Yi family, just because the Yi family asked you to help pour wine. Do you think that's what you're relying on? Is this what you're proud of? If that's all, then it's too embarrassing, isn't it?" Fang Yan lowered his voice and said mysteriously, "I'm very rich, I'm not lying to you." Fang Yan waved his hand at Zhou Fan and said, "I'll call you uncle and you can't let me down." "Goodbye, uncle." Fang Yan waved his hand and left with the wind and snow. Zhou Fan stood where he was, his face as pale as the snow on his feet. He stamped his feet heavily and said with a sneer, "I'd like to see how long you can be arrogant." When Fang Yen arrived at the Yi family's house, Yi Fengxing was playing ice hockey with his cousins at the gate of the yard. The leaders' drivers were arranged in the side hall of the yard. They were drinking tea and eating melon seeds, watching the children play with kind smiles on their faces. Seeing Fang Yen coming over, Yi Fengxing threw the ice hockey in his hand to his cousin Yi. He greeted Fang Yen and said, "Lunch is about to start. Third uncle said that you can go in directly when you arrive." Fang Yen looked at Yi Fengxing and asked, "Why didn't third uncle let you go in to pour wine?" Yi Fengxing curled his lips and said, "Third uncle may think that I'm too fat and it's not nice to occupy 2 seats." Fang Yen naturally knew that it couldn't be the reason. He patted Yi Fengxing's shoulder and comforted him, "Maybe it's the sequelae of the Maple Leaf Club. He probably wants to add fuel to the fire." Yi Fengxing put his arm around Fang Yan's shoulder and said, "I don't need you to explain to me. Isn't it the same for either of us to go in? I don't want to go in yet. If I go in, I want to secretly eat fat. A small bite isn't satisfying and a big bite isn't pleasing. It's better to hide in the kitchen and eat to my heart's content." Fang Yen patted his brother's shoulder and walked towards the Yi family's living room. The Yi family had 2 living rooms. One was used to entertain guests. It was spacious, luxurious, and extraordinary. The other was used by the family for gatherings. Although it was smaller and simpler, it was more warm and cozy. Except for guests, the Yi family rarely used the living room outside. Fang Yen had been to the Yi family countless times and was familiar with the Yi family's buildings. Through the hall was the small courtyard and across the lawn was the side hall. To the left was the cement path of the main living room, and to the right was the stone path of the Yi family's inner residence. Fang Yen walked up the cement path and stood at the door of the living room and looked in. Yi Daoling was sitting on the main seat, accompanied by an old man. There were also a few middle-aged men about Yi Daoling's age sitting on the left and right sides. They didn't use the 2 rows of yellow rosewood chairs on both sides of the living room. Although it looked formal and dignified, it was easy to pull people apart. They sat on the sofa made of the same rosewood. Although it was a bit crowded, it made their relationship look more intimate and harmonious. As a brilliant politician, it was impossible for Yi Daoling not to understand these details. Seeing Fang Yen appear at the door of the living room, Yi Daoling waved to Fang Yen and said, "Come over, we're waiting for you." Fang Yen walked in front of Yi Daoling and took the initiative to fill the cups in front of everyone. He said with a smile, "Hello leaders, I'm here to serve you." Yi Daoling pointed at Fang Yen and said to his colleagues, "This is the Fang Yen I mentioned to you just now. Although this kid's surname is Fang, I've always treated him as a nephew, very slippery. If it wasn't for his act at the Maple Leaf Club, I wouldn't have gotten this benefit." Everyone sized up Fang Yen while flattering Yi Daoling. The white-haired old man said in a deep voice, "I also heard those rumors that Daoling got lucky. What a joke. This is an appointment from the country, how can it be taken lightly? This kind of person can only gossip behind his back. If he dares to say it to his face, I'll have to talk to him. Minister Yi is everyone's hope. We're sincerely convinced that you're in this position. I also want to get lucky and move my butt forward. But I've been looking forward to it for so many years, but I've never waited for such an opportunity." "Ah." Yi Daoling smiled calmly and looked at Fang Yen and said, "Everyone here is your elder. You have to toast them a few more times in a while. Coming to Swallow Dock as a guest, it's fine if we don't treat them well in other aspects, but we can't not drink good wine. It's the annual vacation now, don't worry about them making mistakes." Fang Yen nodded in agreement and said, "I'll listen to third uncle." Only then did Fang Yen understand that Yi Daoling pulled him over to support him and introduce some connections. Perhaps he was also worried that his family would vent their hatred on Fang Yen. Chapter 399. Fang Yen forced Mr. Gong to push Yi Daoling behind his back. Whether it was intentional or not, it allowed him to occupy that important position. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Fang Yen owed Yi Daoling a favor. When Yi Daoling was entertaining his subordinates at home, he let Fang Yen, this junior, pour wine at the table. He also had the intention to help him increase his reputation and network. The Jiang family lost this important city, so they naturally had hatred in their hearts. If they imposed their hatred on Fang Yen alone, Fang Yan's situation would be very dangerous. However, Yi Daoling was now in a high position of power. Even if he couldn't compete with the Jiang family couldn't do anything to him. He stood up and said that Fang Yen was his nephew. The things that Fang Yen did were all because of him. When these words reached the ears of the people in Yanjing City, they would naturally help Fang Yen share some of the gunfire. Moreover, there was an implicit meaning of protection. The Yi family had always been very good at distinguishing between gratitude and grudges. Sure enough, because of Yi Daoling's strong recommendation and he had changed the topic to Fang Yen several times, how could the few people present not understand the meaning of this leader? They drank and chatted with Fang Yen. When they were 30% pretending to be drunk, exchanging phone numbers with each other was the proper meaning. After the lunch banquet ended, the guests from afar were all drunk by Fang Yen and Yi Daoling. Their alcohol tolerance was not bad, but compared to Fang Yen and Yi Daoling, this kind of abnormal guy who drank knives like water since childhood, it was not worth mentioning. Their driver played a role at this time, supporting the leader to the parking lot at the entrance of Swallow Dock. The parking lot was actually a rice field used by the villagers to harvest grain during the busy farming season. Now that the grain was collected, there was nothing on the rice field except for a few haystacks. It was wide and flat, a natural parking lot. The drivers all felt strange. The car could obviously drive directly to the Yi family's door, so why did the leader let them get off at that parking lot? Of course, no one would be stupid enough to ask the leader for the reason. It was just that it was more difficult to support the leader now. Fang Yen and Yi Daoling sat back in front of the coffee table and drank tea. Yi Daoling looked at Fang Yen and said, "I only have 2 days of vacation. Today I will entertain my colleagues at home. Tomorrow I will have a reunion dinner at home. On the first day of the new year, I will accompany the Prime Minister on a visit. This might be the last time we meet before the new year. We might not have the chance to meet again after the new year. When are you going to Huaqing?" "Probably on the 7th or 8th, Fang Yen said. "I have to make some preparations before the students start school. Originally, I wanted to arrange a new job for you after the new year, or bring you to work by my side. But since you have made your own choice, I can't say much. Since you have chosen to be a teacher, you have to be responsible for your students. Besides, you have gained a lot in Huaqing for half a year. Since the heart of Tai Chi can break through twice, it proves that there will be a third time. Although I don't know much about your Fang Tai Chi, if you can reach the legendary highest state of Tai Chi, the water overflow state, you will be the pride of our entire Swallow Dock." Yi Daoling looked like he was gossiping. Just as he said, he was indeed talking to Fang Yen with the tone and attitude of an elder. Fang Yen nodded with a smile and said, "I will work hard. When I am with my students, I feel very calm and my body feels very free. I think this is also the reason why my heart of Tai Chi can break through. So, I will continue to be a teacher. I am not considering changing professions for the time being. As for whether the heart of Tai Chi can reach the water overflow state, let nature take its course. This kind of thing can't be forced. The heart of Tai Chi won't have the word forced. Of course, I'm also looking forward to such a day." Yi Daoling nodded and said, "Write down Donghai's phone number. If there is anything, you can call him directly. I often have meetings, so my time is not as free as Donghai. If there is a problem that I can't solve, I will ask Uncle Donghai for help." Fang Yen said with a smile. If someone threw an olive branch, he would naturally accept it with both hands. Yi Daoling put down the teacup in his hand and said, "I am going to read a document, so I won't sit with you. You young people find your own fun." Fang Yen got up and sent Yi Daoling off. Yi Fengxing ran over and asked, "Third uncle left?" "Yes." Fang Yen said. "Did you speak up for me? Let him let me out after the new year?" "No." Fang Yen said. "Why not?" "Because I think he will definitely not agree. The Yi family hopes that you can focus on martial arts, so they naturally don't want you to go out and be distracted by other things," Fang Yen said. After a pause, he whispered to Yi Fengxing, "If you really want to go out, then go out." Yi Fengxing stared at Fang Yen with wide eyes and said, "You want me to run away like you?" "We are not running away, we are just going out to find inspiration," Fang Yen said. "Look, I went out and broke through the heart of Tai Chi. Maybe if you go out, your white tiger fist can also enter the upper stage of Peri-Celestial. It is also possible to directly become a tiger." Yi Fengxing nodded and said, "Let's go, I will take you to a place." "To where?" "You will know when you come," Yi Fengxing said. Fang Yen looked at him warily and said, "You will not harm me, right?" "How is that possible? You are my brother." "I will harm anyone but you," Yi Fengxing said angrily. Thus, Fang Yen was hugged by Yi Fengxing's fat arm and walked towards the backyard of the Yi family. When they reached the entrance of the bamboo garden, Yi Fengxing suddenly held his stomach and said, "My stomach is not feeling well, I need to go to the toilet. You go to the bamboo pavilion, my sister wants to talk to you." Before Fang Yen could object, Yi Fengxing had already turned around and ran away. "Do you think I am an idiot?" Fang Yen sneered. Why would Yi Ro talk to me? Must be a trap. Fang Yin didn't go to the bamboo pavilion, he turned around and left. Fang Yin had just gotten home and was about to rest when his phone rang in his pocket. It was a message from Yi Fengxing. How dare you stand my sister up? Fang Yin jumped out of his bed in shock. Is Yi Ro really looking for me? That bastard Yi Fengxing. Why is he not lying all of a sudden? Zhou Fan was in a bad mood. He wanted to drive back to Yanjing immediately and buy a ticket to Mingzhu to spend the Spring Festival with his parents and family. But if he left now, he would lose face and his relationship with his wife would worsen. He hated Fang Yin and the Fang family to the core. Since he didn't want to stay with the Fang family, he wandered around the village by himself. He had to admit that the winter in the north was really charming. Although Swallow Dock was in a remote location, the scenery was quite good. Both the ice river in Shihizi and the ice mountain in Little Green Mountain were beautiful. Zhou Fan walked along the shore of Shihizi and planned to go to the foot of Little Green Mountain to have a closer look. He walked farther and farther, and his figure became more and more faint. Whoosh! He heard the sound of snow being stepped on behind him. He turned around but there was no one behind him. When he turned around, he saw a man in a black robe and a hood standing in front of him. Zhou Fan was taken aback and he stepped back. When he regained his balance, he asked anxiously, "Who are you? What do you want? Are you Fang Yin?" "Fang Yin, I'm warning you, don't play this kind of trick with me." He had received a high level of education, so he naturally didn't believe in ghosts. But this man appeared out of nowhere and was dressed in such a 2D style. This made him wonder if Fang Yin was deliberately trying to scare him. After all, in his impression, Fang Yin could do anything. Whoosh! The man took a step forward. With just one step, he was already in front of Zhou Fan. Then he stretched out his hand and grabbed Zhou Fan's neck. During this process, Zhou Fan didn't have any intention of dodging or resisting. Perhaps it was too late. The black-robed man exerted a bit of force and lifted Zhou Fan's body into the air. Zhou Fan's feet were off the ground and he couldn't breathe properly. His face quickly turned purple. His throat was moaning and he wanted to say something but no words came out. The black-robed man raised a white transparent bottle in front of Zhou Fan and said with an extremely hoarse and strange voice, "When we have reunion dinner, pour this into the Fang family's soup pot. I believe you can do it." Zhou Fan's eyes widened. It was unknown whether it was because he was surprised to receive such a strange task or because his body was suffering from lack of oxygen. "Of course you can also resist or run away. It doesn't matter." As the black-robed man spoke, the hand that was strangling Zhou Fan's throat twisted slightly and Zhou Fan's mouth opened wide. The black-robed man flicked his finger and a black pill was shot into Zhou Fan's mouth. Zhou Fan only smelled a fishy smell, and then the pill dissolved in his mouth, flowed into his throat and stomach and could no longer be found. "You can only get the antidote after completing the task," the black-robed man said in a muffled voice. "Either they die or you die." Plop. Zhou Fan's body fell to the ground. He covered his neck and gasped for fresh air. If he had been strangled for 1 or 2 more seconds, he felt that he would have died. When he finally recovered, he raised his head to look for the black-robed man but found that he had already disappeared. The river bank and the mountain ridge were gone as if they had never been there. More strangely, he found that the black-robed man didn't even leave footprints. There was only a trail of footprints on the snow. Zhou Fan's body tensed up and his hair stood on end. He was extremely frightened. Did he meet the legendary snow ghost today? However, he looked at the white glass bottle in his hand. Why would the snow ghost want to poison the Fang family? Poison? In a panic, he threw the glass bottle far away. Chapter 400. Zhou Fan vomited until his heart and lungs were torn apart. Again and again he stuck his fingers into his mouth and dug, then lay on the ground and vomited. He vomited his lunch, his bile, and even his internal organs, but he was still not sure whether he had succeeded or not. He was very sure that the black-robed man put poison in his mouth. If he could not complete the task, he might die from the poison because there was no antidote. However, if he completed the task, then, would anyone from the Fang family be alive? He did not want to die, nor did he want the Fang family to die. Yes, he hated the Fang family and he hated Fang Yin, but it was not to the point where he could not live or die. He wanted to spit out the pill and he wanted to pretend that nothing had happened. However, no matter how hard he tried, he knew better than anyone else that he was actually doing useless things. He lay down in the snow, powerlessly, letting the cold wind blow on his cheeks, letting the scattered snow cover his body. He opened his eyes and looked at the vast sky. At this moment, the sky was just like his current mood. He was a little regretful. Why did he come here to see the little green mountain? Wasn't it enough to see it from afar? He began to hate again. He hated Fang Yan, hated the Fang family. If it were not for Fang Yan, if it were not for the Fang family, how could he have encountered such a thing? How could he be forced to take poison? Even his own wife was the same. That hateful woman, why did she force him and his father to come to this damned place to celebrate the spring festival? He still hoped that this was not true, that the black-robed man was Fang Yan or his friends in disguise, and they were just punishing him for belittling them. This was actually a realistic farce. He lay in the snow for a long time until the phone in his pocket rang. Only then did he come back to his senses. He got up from the snow, took out his phone, glanced at the caller ID, then hung up and turned off the phone. He did not want to talk now. Either they die or you die, the black-robed man threatened him with a hoarse voice. This was really a dilemma. He did not want to die, he could not die, he must live. However, was this the reason for wanting the Fang family to die? He searched around and finally found the transparent glass bottle in the snow. As long as he poured the drop of liquid in the bottle into the soup, he would complete the task and receive the reward of survival. He put the glass bottle into the hidden pocket of his windbreaker, patted off the snow on his body, and walked home as if nothing had happened. When Zhou Fan returned to the Fang family, Fang Yijing was already waiting for him at the entrance of the courtyard. Fang Yijing looked at Zhou Fan and said, "Zhou Fan, let's talk." After saying that, he turned and walked towards the room. Zhou Fan followed behind Fang Yijing. After they entered the room, Fang Yijing closed the door. Fang Yijing looked at her expressionless husband and sighed softly, "Zhou Fan, I know you don't want to come here. I know you don't like my family. Even numerology says that you're not happy here. Tomorrow was Chinese New Year's Eve. It was not appropriate to go back at this time. After the reunion dinner tomorrow night, you can go back first with numerology. I rarely go home, so I'll be staying at home for a while. My dad's health isn't good and I haven't been by his side for many years. This time, I have to stay by his side no matter what to do as a filial son." Zhou Fan held his wife's hand and said, "Why wouldn't I want to come? I won't come if I don't want to. It's not that I don't like you, it's just that there's some misunderstanding. I'll stay and have reunion dinner with you. If there's nothing else after Chinese New Year, I'll stay with you for a few days. Your family is my family." "Zhou Fan?" Fang Yijing looked at her husband in shock. How did he change so much in such a short time? He didn't answer her call and even turned off his phone. Wasn't it because he was unhappy with her and her family? Zhou Fan grinned and said, "I figured out a lot of things just now. I do have a problem with my body. I'll talk to them." "Zhou Fan, thank you." Fang Yijing held her husband's hand tightly and said gratefully. They ate dumplings on Chinese New Year's Eve. According to the old rules of Swallow Fort, although dumplings weren't the main dish for reunion dinner, it was an essential reunion dinner. Fish, meat, seafood, and wild vegetables were the main dishes. After eating and drinking, they would eat a few steaming dumplings. Oil would be left at the corners of their mouths, and their lips would smell fragrant. That beautiful feeling of happiness could last from the old year to the new year. On the afternoon of Chinese New Year's Eve, Fang Yan didn't go out. He stayed at home with his mother and 3 aunts to make dumplings. His mother, Lu Wan, took out 2 pieces of white jade from her purse. After washing them with clean water, she solemnly put them into the dumpling bag and said, "These are auspicious dumplings. Whoever eats them will be the luckiest person." Fang Minjing's face was full of joy. She said crisply, "I'll definitely eat them." Eldest aunt, Fang Yisin, took a look at the white jade and joked, "You're really generous." Zhou Mingli was sitting on the sofa playing games. When he saw his aunt put the white jade into the dumpling bag, he said in disgust, "Disgusting. I hope I didn't eat them." Fang Yan raised his eyebrows and was about to get angry. Lu Wan gave him a look to tell him not to cause trouble. Fang Yan didn't want to make his mother angry on Chinese New Year's Eve. He washed the flour on his hands and said to Zhou Mingli, "Mingli, didn't you want to see me split the brick with one hand? Let's go. I'll show you." Zhou Mingli looked at Fang Yan in confusion and said, "You're not lying, are you? How can I lie about this?" Fang Yan asked with a smile. "Are you worried that the brick is fake or that the hand is fake?" Zhou Mingli thought for a while and exited the game. He said, "I'd like to see if you're bluffing." Fang Yijing looked at Zhou Mingli, who followed Fang Yan out. She said worriedly, "Will Mingli be okay?" Lu Wan looked at her and said, "Don't worry. Fang Yan knows what he's doing." Fang Yisin looked at his sister and said, "Yijing, you should also persuade them to come back happily and have a happy New Year's Eve. Isn't that great?" Fang Yijing smiled softly and said, "We talked yesterday. Zhou Fan said he thought through a lot of things. He said there's a misunderstanding and he'll get along well with everyone. Fang Yixin nodded and said, that's more like it. He's also the son-in-law of the Fang family. Otherwise, how could he have the chance to come to Swallow Dock to eat and drink? Fang Yijing smiled and didn't answer. People in Swallow Dock were born proud, but people outside thought that Swallow Dock had nothing to be proud of. The contradiction was too big. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't solve it. Some things couldn't be said too directly. If she told her husband that Swallow Dock was actually Wuxia's guardian, Zhou Fan would definitely suspect that she had some mental illness. In the era of technology, who would believe that a group of people like that existed? Fang Yan took Zhou Mingli to the bank of Shihizi and picked up an intact blue brick in the corner of the backyard of the Li family. He handed the brick that still had ice on it to Zhou Mingli and said, "You lift this brick, I'll break it." "How do I lift it?" Zhou Mingli didn't care about getting his hands dirty. He grabbed the blue brick and asked. "Raise both hands," Fang Yan said. "Hold one corner with each hand." Zhou Mingli lifted the blue brick above his head according to Fang Yan's instructions and asked, "Like this?" "Like this," Fang Yan said. "Lift it up." Fang Yan told him and started pretending to control his qi. His mouth was tightly shut, and his cheeks were puffed up like a frog that was filled with air. "Open." Fang Yan slapped at the blue brick. Zhou Mingli's body took a few steps back, but the blue brick was intact. There wasn't even a crack, let alone being split in half. Zhou Mingli straightened his body and looked at Fang Yan with disdain. He said, "Can you do it or not? If you can't, I'll go back. Who wants to see you show off here?" "Try again," Fang Yan said embarrassedly. "The angle just now was wrong. You lift the blue brick and I'll split it again. I can do it this time." Zhou Mingli thought about it and felt that it didn't matter since it was already here, so he lifted the blue brick again. Fang Yan suddenly exerted force and slashed at the center of the blue brick like lightning. Crack. Zhou Mingli only felt his arms shake and the blue brick in his hand was split into two. He looked at Fang Yan in disbelief and asked, "Is it really possible? There's something more exciting. Do you want to see it?" Fang Yan said with a smile, his voice full of temptation. "What else?" Fang Yan pointed at a crooked tree next to him and said, "You climb up this tree and throw the brick down. When the brick falls, I'll cut it in half. When the brick hits the ground, you'll find that the brick will split into two." "Impossible?" Zhou Mingli's curiosity was piqued. "Do you think this is a movie? Try it if you don't believe me." Zhou Mingli looked at the crooked tree and said, "This tree is icy and slippery. I'm afraid I can't climb it." "Then forget it," Fang Yan said. "When you come next spring, I'll show it to you." Zhou Mingli hesitated again and again, but he still didn't want to give up. He said to Fang Yan, "I'll try climbing. Help me." "Sure." Fang Yan reluctantly agreed. With Fang Yan's help, Zhou Mingli finally climbed up the crooked tree with great effort. Zhou Mingli hugged the tree trunk and shouted to Fang Yan, "Pass me the brick." "Brick? What brick?" Fang Yan looked at Zhou Mingli with a confused expression. "Didn't you say I'll climb up and throw the brick, and you'll split it?" Zhou Mingli had a bad feeling. "That's what happened," Fang Yan said. "But I just thought about it. I think I'm not strong enough yet. I'll go back and practice. When I'm done, I'll come back and split the brick for you. Don't worry. By next spring, I'll definitely be able to split the brick in the air." After Fang Yan said that, he turned around and walked towards the village. "Hey Fang Yan," Zhou Mingli was scared. He hugged the crooked tree and shouted, "Put me down, Fang Yan, you bastard. Put me down, Fang Yan, you bastard. You dare to trick me. I'll play you to death, Fang Yan cousin, help." Deep in the forest, a man in black robe watched this scene like a ghost. Chapter 401. "Come back quickly, I can't handle it alone." The tree trunk was too tall, the bark was too slippery, and it was covered with a thin layer of ice. If he wasn't careful, he might slip and fall to the ground. Zhou numerology relied on Fang Yan's help to climb up. Now that Fang Yan said that he had to go back to practice again, it was possible that he could only come back next spring to perform the act of splitting bricks in the air. If he lay here and waited until next spring before the tree sprouted, it would probably sprout on his head. Of course, he also knew that it was going to be New Year's Eve dinner soon. If his family couldn't see him, they would definitely come out to look for him. His life wouldn't be in any danger. However, the wind and snow were strong in the forest beside Stone River. Not to mention 1 or 2 hours, even 10 or 20 minutes would be a torture. He really hated Fang Yan to the core. Why hadn't he been beaten to death by his parents when he was young? this naughty kid who specialized in destroying things and scheming against others. Fang Yan, come back, help, someone help me, Zhou Mingli screamed himself hoarse, but no one could hear his helpless pleas. In the depths of the forest, a pair of gray eyes stared at him without blinking. The black robe was wrapped tightly around his body. Even the arrogant cold wind couldn't remove it from his body. He held a thin blade in his hand. As long as he gently tossed it out, the screaming child would most likely die. After a long time, he finally made his final decision. He turned around and sprinted towards the top of the small green mountain. Gone in a flash. When Zhou Mingli came back, his face was swollen, his nose was covered in tears and mucus, and he couldn't stop coughing. His hair, which was originally made with hair clay, was blown into a chicken's nest shape. The four sides were swollen and the middle was bald. It could be the new trend of Swallow Fort. Zhou Mingli couldn't hold it in anymore when he saw Fang Yijing. He cried out, "Where's Fang Yan? Where's Fang Yan? That bastard, he purposely tricked me. He tricked me to the tree and ran away. I couldn't get down alone, I almost fell to my death." Fang Yijing knew that Fang Yan would punish her son. It was not Fang Yan's style to do nothing. But when he saw Zhou Mingli's miserable state, he felt a little distressed. He quickly pulled Zhou Mingli into the room and said, "Why are you shouting? Quickly go back and change your clothes. My God, my clothes are about to turn into popsicles. It's Fang Yan. This bastard son of a bitch, I'm going to fight him to the death. He dared to bully me, I'm not going to let him off easy, pa." Zhou Fan slapped his son on the head. "Shut up." Zhou Fan snapped. "Who told you to talk to your cousin like this? You have no respect for your elders? Is this what we taught you?" His father's anger was still a deterrent. Seeing that Zhou Fan was angry, Zhou Mingli didn't dare to make a scene again. He wiped his tears and said, "So we'll just let it go? I was bullied by him for nothing? Why should he? Because he is your elder brother," Zhou Fan said with a tough attitude. "If you talk to your elder brother like this again, I'll teach you a lesson even if he doesn't do anything. You." Zhou Mingli wanted to rush up and fight with his father. He felt that everyone was bullying him. Even his father had betrayed him and joined the enemy's side. As his mother, "You need to discipline him," Zhou Fan said to Fang Yijing. Hearing the commotion, everyone in the Fang family turned their gazes over. Lu Wan came out and advised, "Talk to the child, don't touch him." Fang Menjing giggled and said, "Big brother Fang Yan has been beaten a lot." "You little girl." Lu Wan was amused by Fang Menjing's words. She grabbed the two braids on her head and said, "If you dare to talk to adults again, I'll sew your mouth shut with a needle." Fang Menjing quickly covered her mouth with her hand, worried that her aunt would really sew her mouth shut with a needle. If that happened, she wouldn't be able to eat delicious food. Only a stick can make a filial son. Children should be strictly disciplined. If they are like this now, what will happen in the future? Zhou Fan said. While everyone was comforting Zhou Mingli, Zhou Fan left the room and went to the kitchen. It was Lunar New Year's Eve. The two old maids of the Fang family were busy preparing dinner for the family. Seeing Zhou Fan come in, the old maid who was washing the vegetables asked with a smile, "Young master, why are you in the kitchen?" "I'm here to find something to eat," Zhou Fan said with a smile. "I ate quite a lot in the afternoon. I didn't expect to be hungry at this hour." "It's easy to boil oil in a cold place," the old maid said. "There's fried rice balls and braised pig's face meat. Should I make a bowl of rice balls and cut a plate of pig's face meat for you to fill your stomach?" "Sure," Zhou Fan said with a smile. "Cut a plate of pig's face meat." The old maid wiped her hands on her apron, then took a pig's ear from the pot and cut it into strips. Zhou Fan stood next to the old maid and pretended to watch her cut the meat. But when the old maid's body blocked the other old maid's view, he quickly unscrewed the white bottle of potion in his hand and poured it into the soup pot. There was only one drop of the potion, and it didn't even make a splash when it was poured into the soup pot. The old maid looked at Zhou Fan looking at the soup pot and said with a smile, "This is mountain mushroom pheasant soup. The mushrooms are picked from the mountains and the pheasant is hunted from the mountains. You city people can't eat it." "Yes, people in the city eat expensive and nutritious food," Zhou Fan said with a smile. "There's also gutter oil. Drink a bowl later to replenish your vitality," the old maid said. She deftly put the pig's ear on a plate, then handed a pair of chopsticks to Zhou Fan and said, "Young master, eat this first." "Thank you," Zhou Fan took the plate and said gratefully. When Fang Yan came back from outside, Zhou Mingli was already sitting on the living room sofa playing games. When he saw Fang Yan come in, his eyes almost shot out thousands of sharp little swords to stab Fang Yan into pieces. Fang Yin sat next to Zhou Mingli and asked with concern, "Cousin, you're back? Did you catch a cold?" "Fang Yin, don't be mean to me, I'll be even more mean if you're mean to me." Fang Yin interrupted him and said with a low voice, "You've seen it, I can break a brick with my bare hands. If I cut your spine with a knife, do you think you can still stand up? Don't you dare. Do you want to try?" Fang Yin said with a smile. "I have inner force. If I hit you, you won't feel it on the spot, but after a month the side effects will slowly show." Zhou Mingli felt a chill on his back. He jumped down from the sofa, put on his shoes and ran to his room. He was really scared of Fang Yin. Fang Yin smiled silently. This pair of father and son was really worrisome. After the Fang family worshipped their ancestors, they poured 3 glasses of wine in the direction of the stone tablet at the entrance of Swallow Dock village. Fang Yin personally went to the backyard to bring a few dishes to the old drunkard, and drank 2 glasses with him. The Fang family's New Year's Eve dinner also officially began. Fang Huwei sat at the head of the table, Fang Yixing sat below, and then Fang Hao, Zhao Qingxin, Zhou Fan, Fang Yin, Zhou Mingli and several other juniors of the Fang family sat below. Lu Wan and the other women sat on the other side of Fang Huwei according to seniority. Fang Huwei looked at his descendants sitting on both sides of the table. He seemed to be in a particularly happy mood and said with a smile, "New Year's Eve is the night of reunion. How can it be called a night of reunion when all the family members are not here? This year Yixing and Zhou Fan are back, and so is Zhou Mingli. This year's reunion dinner is even more reunion than in previous years. But this is not enough." Everyone looked at Fang Huwei with confusion. Obviously all the family members were here, why did the old man say it was not enough? Could it be that someone who was supposed to be here didn't come back? Fang Huwei looked at Fang Yin with bright eyes and jokingly said, "If Fang Yin can bring back that girl from the Yi family, then our dinner will be truly perfect." Everyone laughed. Fang Yin smiled bitterly and said, "Grandpa, please don't make fun of us." "Who said I'm joking with you? Next year we must win that girl from the Yi family, and bring her back to our Fang family for a reunion dinner during Chinese New Year. This is a mission, we must make sure it is completed." Fang Huwei said with a serious expression. Fang Yin didn't want to spoil his grandpa's mood, so he half-heartedly said, "I'll try my best, but you also know this kind of thing requires fate." "Fate my ass. Back then, I fell in love with your grandmother and so did many other people. They wrote love poems and gave her gifts, so I directly went up to her and told her to come with me. Then she left with me." Fang Huwei said with a proud expression. Fang Yan's face was full of shock, saying, "It's that simple?" He didn't quite believe it. He always felt that picking up girls was something that required a lot of experience. How could it be so easy to succeed? "It's that simple." Fang Huwei solemnly nodded. "Of course, that's only if I beat all of her suitors away in front of her." Everyone laughed again. Even Zhou Mingli, who always kept a straight face and didn't want to talk to anyone, couldn't help but laugh. It seems like Fang Huwei's story was very much to the taste of these young people. After Fang Huwei finished his speech, everyone's eyes turned to Fang Yixing. According to the rules, he would also say a few words. Fang Yixing raised the glass in front of him and smiled. "I won't say much, I just wish everyone good health and a better life. Come, let's have a toast. Cheers." Everyone's glasses clanked together, making a clear sound. Then everyone raised their necks and drank all the liquor in their glasses. Even Fang Mingxiang learned from the adults and drank all the yogurt in his glass in one gulp. The first thing to eat was the soup. The old maid brought up the bowls of soup. Everyone had a bowl in front of them. Fang Huwei took the bowl, blew on it and was about to drink the soup with a spoon, when Zhou Fan suddenly called out, "Wait a minute." Chapter 402. Zhou Fan suddenly spoke. Everyone put down their bowls of soup and looked at him with puzzled eyes. On such an occasion, drinking soup while others were talking was indeed a very impolite behavior. The Fang family was very polite. Zhou Fan's face was slightly red, and his forehead was covered with fine beads of sweat due to nervousness. Of course, it could also be because of the smoke from the soup pot in front of him. His legs, which were placed under the table, were trembling slightly. His stomach secreted a large amount of saliva, and then he quietly swallowed it, mouthful by mouthful. He was a little evasive, not daring to look at anyone's eyes. But he soon realized that this kind of evasive behavior was actually a kind of guilty conscience, so he quickly raised his head. Fang Huwei looked at Zhou Fan with a smile and said, "Don't be nervous. We're all family, so what can't we say? Children's words carry no harm. In front of me you're all a group of children. Even if you scold an old man like me tonight, I won't get angry with you. At most I'll be taught a lesson by my disciples and be done with it. Do you think I'll become enemies? Zhou Fan smiled awkwardly, looked at Fang Huwei and said, I have a few words to say. I want to toast you first, Dad. Everyone laughed. Fang Yixing looked at Zhou Fan and said, I thought it was something serious. If you want to toast, we won't stop you. But I've already told the old man during dinner that he can only drink 3 glasses tonight. After 3 glasses he's not allowed to drink anymore. He's already clinked glasses with everyone, so if you want to toast him, this will be the 2nd glass. But I can't guarantee whether the old man will drink it or not. Zhou Fan raised the glass in front of him, looked at Fang Huwei and said, Dad, I want to apologize to you. All these years I've done a lot of bad things. You handed Yi Yan to me, but I've always let her suffer. Especially in recent years, because I've made some small achievements at work, I feel that I'm unbeatable and look down on everyone. The last few times Yi Yan came back to see you, I pushed her away with the reason that I'm busy with work. I'm really busy with work. But if I really want to take a leave, I can find time to come. I just think, do you think our Fang family is too poor and Swallow Dock is too remote? Fang Huwei asked directly. Zhou Fan felt even more ashamed and said, yes. I always felt that Swallow Dock was too remote, and the people here always had a straight back and they walked with vigor as if they were more powerful than anyone else. I feel very uncomfortable in my heart. Zhou Fan gulped down the wine in his cup and said, I know I was wrong. No matter how remote Swallow Dock was, it was still the hometown of Yi Jing. No matter what, the Fang clan is still my family. I shouldn't have come here with an attitude of showing off and pride. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been hit on the head again and again. Fang Huwei touched his big bald head, looked at the juniors present and asked, do you think I should drink Zhou Fan's toast? We should drink. Fang Minjing and Fang Mingxiang shouted. Children loved to join in on the fun. You should drink, Fang Yixing said. Dad, give Zhou Fan a chance. Fang Yijing said with red eyes, since he made it clear, it means he's sincerely apologizing. Fang Huwei nodded, then tilted his head back and gulped down the wine in his cup. Fang Huwei put down the empty cup and said to Zhou Fan, I've been waiting for this cup of wine for too many years. Dad, I'm sorry. Zhou Fan's eyes were red. I've let you down. Indeed, Fang Huwei said with a smile. Now that you're able to say these words and toast me, it proves that Fang Yijing didn't choose the wrong person, and I, Fang Huwei, wasn't blind to marry my daughter to you. Zhou Fan poured himself another cup of wine, then looked at Fang Yan and said, Fang Yan, I want to toast you with this cup of wine. Fang Yan smiled and said, regardless of age or seniority, it's not my turn, right? Fang Yan, I must toast you with this cup of wine, Zhou Fan said with a firm tone. There's been some conflict between us, and I know you've always been very dissatisfied with me as your uncle. Fang Yan nodded seriously and said, sometimes I've thought about not being your uncle. You know a lot of things in your heart. But for the sake of your aunt and the harmony of the family, you pretend that nothing happened. This time I also came with hostility. I didn't want to come at first, but Yi Jing insisted. In order to go back to her hometown for the spring festival this year, she insisted with me for more than half a year. Thank you for tolerating me, thank you for accepting me. Fang Yin, let bygones be bygones. I'll toast you with this cup of wine. Zhou Fan's tone was sincere, and his eyes were sincere. Moreover, he was Fang Yan's elder. Since an elder took the initiative to apologize to a younger person, Fang Yan couldn't pretend to be cold no matter what. He picked up the cup in front of him and clinked it with Zhou Fan, then said with a smile, Uncle, you're too serious. I've always had hope in you. I think you can still be saved. Lu Wan scolded, Fang Yan, how can you talk to your uncle like that? Fang Yan and Zhou Fan drank up the white wine in their cups at the same time, and Zhou Fan poured himself a third cup of wine. Fang Huwei looked at Zhou Fan and said, if there's anything good, you should say it slowly. If there's any good wine, you should drink it slowly. You said all the good words in one breath and drank all the good wine. Do you still want to talk? Do you still want to drink? Put the cup down and drink some soup to moisten your intestines first. Fang Yijing also persuaded him and said, Old Zhou, take a rest first. Everyone understands your intention. Why are you in such a hurry? Zhou Mingli came over to take the wine cup from his father's hand and said, Dad, who do you want to toast this cup of wine to? I'll drink it for you. Zhou Fan pushed Zhou Mingli away and said with red eyes, this cup of wine I toast everyone, to everyone here. I'll drink it first. After that, Zhou Fan drank up the white wine in the cup, put the cup on the table, picked up the meat soup in front of him and said, this soup smells so good. The others looked at each other and also picked up the meat soup in front of them and drank it in small mouthfuls. After Zhou Fan's confession of love, The temperature of the soup dropped a little, and it tasted just right. Crack, whoosh, 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 whoosh. Zhou Fan ran in the snow in a crooked manner and slipped on the hard ice several times. His body fell into the snow pit, and his body was still sliding forward along the smooth ice and snow. Before his body stopped, he had tried hard to get up and run forward again. Every step he took seemed to exhaust all his strength. Running from the Fang clan to here had already exhausted his stamina. His breathing was ragged, and his chest felt like it was being crushed by a huge rock. Every time his heart beat, he felt a dull pain. He hadn't exercised for a long time. The night was dark and windy, and it was freezing cold. There was no bright moon in the sky, not even a star. Fortunately, there was a layer of snow on the ground which could light the way. Zhou Fan's glasses had fallen off, and the scene in front of him was a blur. He relied on his feelings and memories to run here. This was the place where he met the black-robed man. Come out, come out. Zhou Fan stood in the snow and shouted, I've completed the mission, I've completed the mission. No one answered. Apart from startling a few forest birds, which bounced off a few icicles, the icicles fell to the ground and broke into pieces. No human sounds could be heard. I've completed the mission, give me the antidote, give me the antidote. Whoosh! A black-robed man appeared behind Zhou Fan. Are you sure you've completed the mission? The black-robed man's extremely strange voice sounded. This was the most unpleasant voice Zhou Fan had ever heard. It was like talking with a mouth full of sand, or like the sound made by countless earthworms digging holes in the fertile soil. Yes, I've completed the mission. I've completed the mission. I poured the poison into the soup, and they all drank the soup. Everyone drank a bowl, Zhou Fan shouted with a trembling voice. His upper and lower teeth were chattering violently. It was as if he was afraid of what he had just done, or as if he was naturally afraid of the black-robed man in front of him. Is that so? The black-robed man sneered. Then tell me, what are the symptoms of the people who drank the soup now? He would not believe anything Zhou Fan said, even if this man's life was in his hands, even if he could crush him to death at any time. It was like crushing a weak ant to death. Zhou Fan calmed down a little and his speech became more logical. He said, there are no symptoms. I saw them run out with the excuse of going to the toilet after drinking the soup. They have no symptoms. They're all fine, not dead. The black-robed man's voice sounded as if it came from hell. He said, of course they won't die. At least they won't die now. Because I gave you the soulless lure, it's a slow-acting poison. It will fuse with the blood, destroy the human body's hematopoietic function, corrode people's spiritual will, and slowly turn normal people into waste. Finally, after 3 months they will die as if they have a chronic disease. This was Swallow Fort. How could they casually kill an entire family? However, if it was this kind of silent death, by the time they knew the truth, it would already be 3 months later. At that time, who could find traces of them being poisoned? Time was the best accomplice, and it could cover up the key evidence left by the murderer. It's fine if it's an ordinary person, but for those who practice martial arts, the more profound their inner strength is, the more painful it is when they die. The black-robed man looked at Zhou Fan and said, fortunately, the Fang family are all martial arts practitioners. Chapter 403. Without spirit one would lack strength. Without energy there was no divine light. Spirit, chi, and spirit were indispensable to martial artists. The three depended on each other and promoted each other. Zhou Fan didn't know kung fu, nor did he know anything about inner force. However, he could tell from the name that the soulless attraction was obviously meant to attract people's souls. If a person lost his soul, it was equivalent to losing his essence, chi and spirit. What was the difference between him and a useless person? The worst thing was that this thing fused with the blood and destroyed the human body's hematopoietic function. Without the ability to produce blood, how long could one live? Zhou Fan didn't have time to study this. He stretched out his hand and said, I'll listen to you. I've completed the task. Give me the antidote, quickly give me the antidote. I feel like I'm going to die, I'm going to die. The pill that the black-robed man fed him was equivalent to a ticking time bomb. It could detonate in his body at any time and take his life away. The threat of death in the next second was too torturous. If he didn't have more important things to do, he would have collapsed a long time ago. He needed the antidote. He needed to get rid of the poison in his body and defuse the bomb. That way he would have a slight sense of security. This was also the biggest motivation for him to persevere. He didn't want to die. After a moment of silence, the black-robed man asked, Your wife and children, did they drink that bowl of soup? Zhou Fan's body trembled violently as he looked at the black-robed man in horror. This was a rather sensitive and difficult question to answer. If he said that he drank it, then the black-robed man would be suspicious. What kind of person would kill his own wife and child? Could such a person be trusted? If he said that he didn't drink it, then the black-robed man would be even angrier. If you reminded your wife and child, would you also remind the rest of the Fang family? If his actions of reminding his wife and children alerted the Fang family, then wouldn't this mission fail? You drank it? Or did you not drink it? The black-robed man was very concerned about the answer to this question and asked. Yes, they drank it. Zhou Fan's teeth chattered as he cried, I was afraid of alerting them, so I didn't remind them. They also drank that bowl of soup. Give me the antidote to the soup, I want to save them. Jijij. Oh, the black-robed man laughed. His laughter was even more ear-piercing and unpleasant than his voice. People call us beasts. You are the beast. The black-robed man looked at Zhou Fan and said. In order to save his life, he can even sacrifice his wife and son. If this isn't a slow-acting poison, the poisoned person will die immediately. Or, if I tell you that there is no antidote for this soulless attraction, would you feel a little guilty? Give me the antidote. Zhou Fan was like an enraged mad dog. Death had reduced his fear of the black-robed man. He reached out to the black-robed man and roared, Give me the antidote. You promised me, as long as I help you complete the mission, you'll give me the antidote. I did promise you, said the black-robed man. His wide sleeves didn't move at all, but a small red glass bottle flew out from there. Zhou Fan took the vial and asked, Is this the antidote? He was a little uncertain. Why did the black-robed man give him the antidote so readily? Or could it be that this was another type of poison that would kill anyone who drank it? This is the antidote, said the black-robed man. You can only choose to believe it. Because if you don't drink it, the poison in your body will also kill you. Zhou Fan no longer hesitated. He unscrewed the cap and poured the red potion into his mouth. A strong fishy smell wafted out, causing Zhou Fan to retch in disgust. Don't vomit, said the black-robed man. This is raw blood. If you vomit it, you won't be able to cure the poison in your body. The soulless attraction is a slow-acting poison, but the poison in your body will immediately break your meridians and cause you to bleed to death. Every hair on your body can bleed. You must have never seen such a scene, right? Zhou Fan forcefully swallowed the thing he was about to vomit back. He looked at the black-robed man and said, Give me the antidote. I want to save my wife and child. Do you think you still have a chance to save your wife and child? Asked the black-robed man in a deep voice. Zhou Fan staggered back and asked in panic, What are you doing? Of course I'm going to kill you, said the black-robed man. I promised to give you the antidote, so I'll give you the antidote. However, I didn't say that I wouldn't kill you after giving you the antidote. Stupid animal, you're the only one who knows. How can I let you leave alive? As soon as he finished speaking, the black-robed man's body disappeared. A gust of wind swept past. Zhou Fan thought he was going to die. His limbs were numb and his whole body had been frozen into ice. Or was he already dead? This gray world was really like hell. But does hell also snow? When he felt that he could still breathe, when he heard his heart beating fiercely, he realized that he was still alive. He didn't understand what was going on. His mind was still stuck on the scene of the black-robed man rushing towards him. His speed was too fast, like a thick fog wrapping around him. What happened after that? You're not dead, a familiar man's voice sounded behind him. Zhou Fan turned around and looked at Fang Yan's eyes. His body powerlessly fell to the ground and said, You're finally here. It's better to come at the right time than to come early. Fang Yan's gaze was fixed on the black-robed man's face and he said, Don't you think so? You. The black-robed man looked at Fang Yan, then looked at Zhou Fan who was lying on the ground without the strength to move, and said with a voice full of resentment, Did you plan to set up an ambush? Zhou Fan came out to ask for the antidote, and when he was about to kill him, Fang Yan appeared in time to save Zhou Fan. If the appearance of these two people was just a coincidence, the black-robed man wouldn't believe it no matter what. Don't act like you're angry, Fang Yan said with a sneer. You sent someone to kill me, so I should be angry. What right do you have to be angry? The reason why your assassination didn't succeed is because your plan was too stupid. Now you can take off your black robe. I'm really curious, what kind of person hates me so much that they want to exterminate my Fang family? The black-robed man's facial expression was hidden in his hood, and from where Fang Yan stood, he could only see a pitch-black hole. Not even the outline of the face could be seen, which made it very difficult for Fang Yan to distinguish. However, it was also because of this that he suspected that this person was someone he was familiar with. Otherwise, why would he dress up like a medieval wizard to hide his identity? The black-robed man sneered and said, "Since you're so curious, then come and take it off yourself." As the black-robed man spoke, he leaped up again. The wide black robe on his body spread out, and it was as if a black wall had appeared in front of Fang Yen out of thin air. Fang Yen was not afraid of the unknown darkness, and with a tap of his toes, he charged toward the black wall. Before he got close, a powerful chi was released. Fang Yan's body soared into the air like a crane, and his movements were as smooth as flowing water. He punched toward the black-robed man's chest. The powerful chi hit the black-robed man's chest, and the black-robed man quickly floated backward. Fang Yan's legs kicked off, and with the help of drunken crane rides the wind, his body accelerated in the air. His body shot out like a cannonball, fiercely charging toward the black-robed man. When Fang Yan got close to the black-robed man, he slammed his palm toward the black-robed man's head. The black-robed man's head shrank, and he unexpectedly disappeared from the hood. Without the support of his head, the hood collapsed in an instant. Fang Yan's palm struck empty air, and his body moved forward in a straight line due to inertia. The black-robed man's wide sleeve swung over, and he began to counterattack. The sleeve carried a powerful chi, and it was like a huge steel palm leaf fan. Before the sleeve could hit a person's body, the strong wind had already swept the person away. Fang Yan did not retreat but instead advanced, and his body accelerated again. The Tai Chi heart spun and the Tai Chi realm completely unfolded. In Fang Yan's mind, the swung sleeve turned into a square with 4 black lines. Of course, in Fang Yan's eyes, its speed was already astonishingly slow. Fang Yan stretched out his hand like lightning and grabbed a corner of the sleeve. His legs exerted force and his body rose into the air again. In the air he used pushing 1,000 jin with 4 liang, and using his strength as a guide, he levered the huge black-robed man. His body spun in the air, following the path of the Tai Chi heart. With this rotating force as a carrier, Fang Yan's body was able to maintain its momentum in the air and no longer fall. Then he pulled the black-robed man and spun like a windmill. Every time he spun he would reduce some of the force. After they spun countless times, the black-robed man's strength had been completely reduced. Fang Yan dragged the black-robed man to the ground. He knew that the black-robed man had become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. He wanted to tear apart his black robe, take off his black hat, and finally cover him with the white cloth that represented death. He hated the black-robed man to the core. Rip! A crisp sound was heard. The sleeve in Fang Yan's hand could not withstand the pull of gravity and suddenly broke. Fang Yan reacted quickly and punched the black-robed man's head. He was never a picky person. In his opinion, he could first see the black-robed man's true face, and then smash his head, or he could first smash his head, and then see the black-robed man's true face. Perhaps at that time he would no longer be able to see clearly. Who cared? Bam! Fang Yan's fist landed solidly on the black robe. Unfortunately, it was only the black robe and not the black-robed man's body. The black-robed man actually used the black robe as a disguise, and played a clever trick of a cicada shedding its carapace. He slid down from the bottom of the black robe. Earlier, Fang Yan landed on the ground, and then swung his right hand and a blood-red thread shot towards Zhou Fan who was lying on the ground. Chapter 404. Hiss, the red thread snake hissed. It was as if someone was whistling his foot. He tried hard to make a sound but it was not loud or pleasant at all. The red thread flew towards Zhou Fan who was lying on the ground as fast as lightning. If it was an ordinary person such as Zhou Fan, even if the tiny red thread entered his body through his nostrils, ears or mouth, and gave birth to a nest of red thread snakes in his stomach, he would not be aware of it. However, in Fang Yan's eyes, he could clearly see the red line's every move and even its 2 black eyes that were like dots. It was a red thread snake. Fang Yan was no stranger to this kind of red thread snake. Previously, when he fought with the Snake Lord had used such a disgusting thing that was impossible to guard against to poison him. However, the Snake Lord had been subdued by Fang Yan and had his snake eye. As long as Fang Yan crushed the snake eye, the Snake Lord would die on the spot. The Snake Lord's life was to become Fang Yan's snake slave and be used by him. It was impossible for him to have the guts to resist and poison Fang Yan. Of course, there was also the possibility that the Snake Lord wanted to poison Fang Yan's family to death and then take away his snake eye from Fang Yan. However, Fang Yan knew that this person was not the Snake Lord. At first contact, he knew that this person was not the Snake Lord. There were many senses in the human body. Fang Yen was quite confident in his combat sense. Zhou Fan was lying on the snow silently. After a day and a night of suffering, his physical strength had been exhausted. He had just experienced a life and death crisis. Because of the appearance of Fang Yen, he could not hold on any longer. He directly lay on the ground and fainted. Zhou Fan did not have the ability to save himself, and Fang Yen could not just watch his uncle get killed by the red thread snake. Although he had said not to let him down, he could not really abandon his uncle. It was a matter of life and death. His life was hanging by a thread. Fang Yan's Taiji heart spun even more crazily. The airflow formed a white whirlpool that could devour everything. Fang Yan felt a sharp pain in his dantian, as if the heat from the rotation was going to burn his skin and flesh. The Taiji domain was unleashed to the extreme, and the movement of the red snake turned into a tiny line. Even though he started later, he arrived first. Fang Yan's body flipped and jumped in the air, chasing after the red-line snake that was about to enter Zhou Fan's body at a ghostly speed. Seeing that the red thread viper was about to land on the ground and attack, Fang Yan suddenly threw out the corner of his robe that he was holding. The lower hem of the robe contained an abundant amount of Taiji energy. It was like gold or iron, a murderous weapon. Hoo, wherever the hem of the robe passed, the air was ignited by its heat, emitting a crisp crackling sound. In front of it there was a rectangular, airless vacuum. His sleeves whipped the red thread snake's body, sending it flying. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The red-lined snake let out a few weak cries and fell to the ground. It had already become a dead snake. Fang Yen rushed over and stepped on it. Crack. The red-lined snake's body and the snow on the ground were stepped on by Fang Yen, merging into a pool of red and white mud. The red-lined snake was raised on corpse blood, so the blood inside had a strong stench. Zhou Fan was still sleeping soundly, unaware of the danger outside. Fang Yen saved his uncle and helped him out of danger. When he turned to look at the black-robed man, he had already disappeared. However, when Fang Yen tore off his black robe, he still managed to catch a glimpse of him in a hurry. What kind of face was that? A very ordinary person with a very ordinary face. His skin was as pale as paper, as if he had never seen the light of day. The most memorable thing was that he only had one eye. On the side of his cheek where he had lost his eye, there was a shocking hole in his flesh. The blood had already drained, the wound had already healed, but the uneven skin and the protruding sarcoma of the meridians were still nauseating. This was a caveman. And also a dead man. When Zhou Fan opened his eyes, his wife Fang Yijing was sitting next to him, looking at him with a worried expression. Zhou Fan's mouth moved, but no words came out. "You're awake." Fang Yijing grabbed her husband's hand and asked, "Are you thirsty? Are you hungry? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Zhou Fan blinked and asked, "I'm not dead." He remembered that he was already dead. The ice and snow covered him, and there was a crystal-clear snow bag where he laid. That was his coffin. "I'm not dead," Fang Yijing said with reddened eyes. "Fang Yen saved you," Yi Zichen said. "You didn't lie to me," Zhou Fan said. "What? Everyone in your family knows Kung Fu," Zhou Fan said. "I know Fang Yen knows Kung Fu. I saw him perform Kung Fu. It was amazing, like he was filming a movie. I didn't lie to you." "You didn't lie to me either." Fang Yijing grabbed her husband's hand and smiled. "You said you would get along well with my family and you really did it." Zhou Fan's expression was full of guilt. "I've let you down. If it wasn't for me, you didn't let anyone down." Fang Yijing put Zhou Fan's hand on her face and said with reddened eyes, "Zhou Fan, thank you. Thank you for choosing us, thank you for telling the truth to Fang Yen, thank you for not being so selfish." Fang Yen said that if it wasn't for you, our family could have been poisoned. "My dad also praised you, saying that you're indeed Fang Hui's son-in-law." "My dad rarely praises people, especially these past few years. The only person he praised was Fang Yen." "Really?" Zhou Fan asked with tears streaming down his face. "Did they really say that?" Zhou Mingli felt so wronged but also so touched. What did he go through in the past 2 days? He was just a normal little official. He just wanted to come to his wife's hometown to spend Chinese New Year with his father-in-law. How did he encounter something like this? First, he had a conflict with Fang Yen. He was ridiculed and bullied to the point of death. He just wanted to go out for a walk, but he met a black-cloaked man who fed him a poison, then gave him a bottle of potion and told him to poison his father-in-law's family. Did he die? Or did his father-in-law's family die? This wasn't a problem, this was a King world-class problem. He hesitated for a long time. He didn't even report what happened to him to the Fang family immediately. For a period of time he was really considering how to poison the soup pot. Of course he failed. His strange behavior was already noticed by Fang Yan. He knew that he was a selfish person, and also knew that he was the sinner of the Fang family. He felt that neither his wife nor the Fang family would forgive him. Fortunately, it was all over now. He was still alive, and so was his father-in-law's family. Moreover, he who had never been recognized by them actually received their praise. Was this the sweet after the bitter? It's true. They're discussing something outside. You'll know when you go out. Fang Yijing also nodded with tears on her face. I'm not going out, Zhou Fan said. He reached out and hugged his wife, saying, I just want to be alone with you for a while. The Fang family's living room. The children were all taken to their rooms to sleep by their mother. Only Fang Huwei, Fang Yixing, Fang Hao, Zhao Qingxin, and the junior Fang Yan were left in the living room. Lu Wan also went out after making tea for everyone. She knew that the men of the Fang family had something very important to discuss today. She didn't know until now that what she thought was a peaceful New Year's Eve dinner was actually hiding such a dangerous thing. Looking at her son, Fang Yan, who was sitting calmly next to his grandfather, Lu Wan's heart was filled with comfort. Her son had grown up and could share the family's worries. No, not only could he share the family's worries, he could already support the Fang family's image. It's just that this child is working too hard. If only there was someone who could share the burden with him. Lu Wan thought to herself that it was time to arrange a marriage for Fang Yan. Fang Yan still didn't know about his mother's evil thoughts. He said, this is a ruthless move, but also unexpected. They're trying to get rid of our entire family without making a sound. Fortunately, they chose the wrong chess piece. They chose Zhou Fan to carry out this plan. However, no matter how much Zhou Fan hated the Fang family and how much he hated Fang Yan, he didn't have the intention to eliminate the entire Fang family. They asked Uncle to poison the soup pot to kill us, his wife and his child. As long as you're a man, you'll have a little bit of resistance, right? Uncle said that the mission was completed, so they killed Uncle's wife and child. After understanding Uncle's choice, they were extremely angry, feeling that Uncle had lied to them. Our opponent is not only a psychopath but also a psychopath, right? Just like what Fang Yan said, when faced with the decision to poison his wife, child, and all of his wife's family, anyone would feel uneasy. Zhou Fan was a selfish and timid person. However, this didn't mean that he had completely lost his humanity. He was hostile to the Fang family and hated Fang Yan, but it was only because of the bad feeling in his heart and a few words that he said. If he wanted the Fang family to fight and kill, he wouldn't be able to do such a thing. After he got the antidote, he came back like a stray dog. His strange behavior was hidden from his wife, Fang Yijing, and many people in the Fang family, but it couldn't be hidden from Fang Yan. Under Fang Yan's pressure, he finally confessed to Fang Yan everything that had happened to him. Fang Yan was shocked after hearing it, but he signaled Zhou Fan to keep quiet and beat him at his own game. The medicine that Zhou Fan threw into the soup pot was not the soulless lure, but a tonic called Lingji that Fang Yan gave him. Putting it into the soup pot wouldn't be harmful to the human body, and it could even be beneficial. Chapter 405. War was a competition of strength and wisdom. But the most important thing was luck. If Fang Yan didn't notice Zhou Fan's abnormality, if Zhou Fan refused to admit that he encountered the black-robed man and only said that he felt uncomfortable or that he felt uncomfortable when he saw Fang Yan, would the story have a different ending? The real soul-losing attraction was fed into a rabbit's mouth by Fang Yan. The rabbit didn't die immediately after eating the soul-losing attraction, and it didn't look any different from before it ate the medicine. Fang Yan understood that the other party had put in a slow-acting poison. Seeing that the rabbit didn't eat, Zhou Fan asked Fang Yan if it was a prank. Fang Yan didn't believe it was a prank. After so many life-and-death hunts, he knew that those people outside were far more vicious than he could imagine. There was nothing they couldn't do. For a sensitive place like Swallow Fort, they could only use a slow-acting poison if they wanted to make such a big move. If the Fang family died tragically on New Year's Eve, the impact of this event would be too great. It wasn't something that ordinary people could suppress. No one dared to suppress it. Fang Yan wasn't sure if the Fang family had other puppets, and he didn't know if someone was watching Zhou Fan and the Fang family. If someone was watching and Zhou Fan didn't carry out the task, they might make another move. Therefore, he asked Zhou Fan to put the poison in the soup pot according to the plan. At the dinner table, Zhou Fan suddenly apologized to everyone and toasted them 3 times. This was Zhou Fan's impromptu performance. At that time, Zhou Fan was still suffering from the poison. He wasn't sure if he could survive the night, and he wasn't sure if he could get the antidote from the black-robed man, although Fang Yan promised him that he would help him get the antidote. However, the black-robed man was so powerful and Fang Yin, he was just a young and clever kid. In the hearts of ordinary people, bad guys were always more ferocious and terrifying than good guys. Zhou Fan apologized to everyone for his behavior for so many years. Fang Yin was worried that he would mess up the show. Fortunately, he had been controlling his emotions and forcefully took back the topic. Therefore, when Fang Yin clinked glasses with him at the dinner table, he said that he thought he could still be saved. Everything that happened after that was logical. Zhou Fan's acting skills were off the charts. After everyone finished their soup, he used the excuse of going to the bathroom and ran into the wilderness. Originally, Fang Yin thought that the black-robed man would not give the antidote to Zhou Fan so easily. The most likely scenario was that he would kill Zhou Fan. He was going to die anyway, so why waste an antidote? It turned out that bad people also had a side of them that kept their promises. If I say I'll give you the antidote, I'll give you the antidote. If I say I'll kill you, I'll definitely kill you. Zhou Fan got the antidote, and Fang Yin blocked the black-robed man's attack and saved Zhou Fan. After listening to Fang Yan's story, the whole family fell into a long silence. This is luck and also a blessing. Fang Huwei sighed and said, "It proves that our Fang family should not fall, nor should we fail." Who is that black-robed man? Zhao Qingxin looked at Fang Yin and said, "Do you want me to use my connections in Yanjin to investigate?" "That's fine," Fang Yin said. "Whether it works or not, we have to show the outside world that we were bullied. It's better to do it sooner than later." "I'll arrange it now," Zhao Qingxin said. "I'll take some people to the mountain to check." "Second uncle, there's no need to check the mountain," Fang Yin said with a smile. "He's gone." Fang Huwei nodded and said, "From what Fang Yin said, he's definitely gone. However, after daybreak, send a few good stalkers to take a look. Maybe they can find some clues." "Got it?" Zhao Qingxin agreed and went to the yard to make a call. Obviously, he was going to use the Zhao family's power in Yanjin. "We have to find out who he is." Fang Hao's face was full of murderous intent. "We didn't poison him this time, but what about next time? What about the next time? It's really hard to eat and sleep with an enemy like him." Fang Huwei nodded and said, "What Fang Hao said makes sense. Our Fang family doesn't bully others, but we can't let others bully us for no reason. If we get slapped, we'll take it. If we get slapped a second time, we should at least ask why, right?" The old man looked at Fang Yin and said, "Fang Yin, what do you think?" "Grandpa, let me handle this matter," Fang Yin said coldly. "If we let him escape this time, he won't be so lucky next time." "That's settled," Fang Huwei said. "Let Fang Yin handle this matter. It's getting late. Go and rest." Fang Yixing looked at Fang Yin and said, "Be careful." "I will," Fang Yin said. "Dad, you go and rest. We still have to get up early tomorrow morning to pay New Year's greetings." "You have to come with us this year," Fang Huwei said. "We'll have to go to every household after coming back. Those who helped us before go and kowtow to their elders. Those who bullied us before practice with their juniors. Don't hide at home like a coward." Fang Yin smiled bitterly and said, "Isn't this bullying?" "What do you mean by bullying?" "This is showing off our strength," Fang Huwei said coldly. "The country also conducts military exercises from time to time. What's wrong with showing off our strength?" New Year's Eve was also the golden time to say goodbye to the old and welcome the new. Before midnight, Fang Yan's phone began to ring. Most of them were from Rosefinch secondary students and colleagues in the office. Zhu Jian and Li Mingqiang, who thought they were close to Fang Yin, called him personally. Zhu Jian's call was relatively simple. He only asked when Fang Yin would return to Huaqing and asked Fang Yin to go to his house for a meal and a drink. Fang Yin told them in advance that he would return to Yanjing for the Spring Festival. They didn't contact Fang Yin during the holiday. Fang Yin said he would return after the Spring Festival, so Zhu Jian said to go to his house for a drink on the 14th of the first lunar month. He was worried that Fang Yin would have an appointment on the 15th, and the 16th was the day school reopened. Of course, the third-year students would start school on the 9th of the first lunar month, and their studies would be more arduous. Li Mingqiang's call was much more intimate and polite. He also asked where Fang Yan's home was in Yanjing. He planned to go to Yanjing after the Spring Festival, mainly to bring his family and children on a trip. He also wanted to visit Fang Yan's and Fang Yan's parents and elders at the same time. He said that it was a courtesy that he should perform. Fang Yin declined again and again. Only then did Li Mingqiang give up on the idea of going to Yanjing to visit Fang Yin for the Spring Festival. One of the school's vice principals was not feeling well. He had said before the Spring Festival that he would be retiring early this year. There were many people eyeing that position, and Li Mingqiang was the most powerful competitor. There were 3 people who could decide that position. The school board member Lu Chaoge, the current principal Zhang Xiaofeng, and the shadow principal Fang Yan. Li Mingqiang knew that if he had Fang Yan, he would have the votes of the school board member and the shadow principal. Even if Zhang Xiaofeng objected, it would be useless. Unfortunately, Fang Yan had already communicated with Zhang Xiaofeng and made other arrangements for this position. Mr. Fang, Happy New Year. The person who secretly likes you. An unknown number sent such a message. Fang Yan thought of something and immediately dialed that number. The call went through, but it was an impatient boy's voice. Who are you? Who are you looking for? Fang Yan hesitated for a few seconds and took the initiative to hang up. Since the other party didn't want to expose himself, there was no need for him to probe aggressively. At such an age, who didn't have a crush that sounded exciting but was actually sad and pitiful? There was a joke on the internet. It said that you might not remember who sent you a message during the Spring Festival, but you would remember clearly who didn't send you a message. As time went by, it was getting closer to midnight. Fang Yan's phone was getting more and more busy. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan stayed by Fang Yan's side. Seeing that Fang Yan was busy answering messages and answering phone calls, the 2 of them felt a little sad when they looked at the phone in their hands. They waited for a long time, but there was not a single message or phone call. On such a special night, they were like orphans forgotten by the world. Ding! The phone in Fang Yingying's hand finally rang. Fang Yingying was so excited that the fat on his face kept shaking. While Fang Yan was drinking water, he said very discontentedly, I don't know who sent me a message to wish me well. I hate this kind of cheap blessing method the most. They are not even willing to write a blessing, and the blessing message is copied and forwarded. 8,000 people out of 10,000 receive the same message. It's a waste of money. Fang Yingying opened his message in front of Fang Yan. There was only one message in the empty inbox, and the name of the message was so familiar, Fang Family Hero. Fang Yingying was stunned for half a second and wanted to quickly hide the phone. Open it and see. Fang Yan held the teacup and said, Let's see what Fang Haohan said to you. There's no need for that, right? Fang Yingying said with a bitter face. It's possible that Fang Haohan wrote a love poem to some girl, but this idiot accidentally chose the wrong recipient and sent it to me. Love poem? Fang Yan's heart of gossip was burning, and it was even more ferocious than the spinning of the heart of Tai Chi. Open it and see. Otherwise I'll do it myself. Fang Haohan shook his head vigorously, signaling Fang Yingying not to open the message. What are you shaking for? Do you think you're a roly-poly doll? Fang Yingying said angrily. The 2 of us are sitting together and the straight line distance is less than 2 meters. What can't we say directly? You just have to waste a message fee. Fang Haohan still shook his head, and he shook even more violently. Open it. Fang Yan's curiosity was aroused and he said to Fang Yingying. Fang Yingying had no choice but to take out his phone and open the message sent by Fang Haohan. Fang Yingying, Happy New Year. You also quickly send me a blessing message. Don't let Junior Marshall Uncle see it. Remember. Chapter 406. Oh, to the power of O. At first, Fang Yan's expression was like this. Smiley face. Then, Fang Yan's expression changed again. : In the end, Fang Yan's expression became like this. Fang Yan wanted to say something. He wanted to tease her or say some comforting words, but he couldn't say anything. He patted Fang Yingying's shoulder, then Fang Haohan's shoulder. A compassionate look that said, I understand you and I'm with you. Fang Yingying's face was extremely embarrassed. He said to Fang Haohan with dissatisfaction, I hope my life will turn into that lotus and I will abandon all fame and fortune. Let the world praise God's freedom, and we only need to monopolize the world. Haven't you heard of this song? Didn't you understand its essence? The people of the inner Jianghu are all peerless powerhouses who live in seclusion. We don't seek fame, nor are we greedy for benefits. What kind of spectacle do we not have? Seen it before? What great temptation have we not experienced? Why would we care about a mere congratulatory message? Fang Haohan, if you want a blessing, just say it. Junior Marshall Uncle and I will satisfy you. It's not a big deal, is it? Was there a need to specially send a message asking for it? You even said not to let Junior Marshall Uncle see it. What kind of thoughts are you having? I, Fang Yingying, do things in an open and above-board manner. There is nothing that I cannot say to others. Junior Marshall Uncle is our elder brother. Do we need to lie to him? I don't care what you, Fang Haohan, do. Anyway, I, Fang Yingying, would never do such a thing. as Fang Yingying was passionately criticizing Fang Haohan, the phone in his hand rang again. Ding dang, it was still the sound of a message from his phone. We are masters, and masters should have the demeanor of masters. As Fang Yingying spoke, he opened the message. After glancing at it, his eyes widened and the fat on his face trembled. He jumped up from the sofa excitedly and shouted, "Missy sent me a message. Missy sent me a message." Ding dang, Fang Haohan's phone also rang with the sound of a text message. Fang Haohan opened his phone and jumped up as well. His body was thin, tall and long, and when he jumped he looked like a dancing skeleton. Missy also sent me a message. Missy has also sent me a message. Fang Yin looked at his phone. It was lying there quietly. It was as if it was dead, not moving at all. He didn't receive a message from Yiro. Yiro seemed to have forgotten him. Fang Yin looked at Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan unhappily and said, "What did Yiro, that savage woman, send you?" "Happy New Year," Fang Yingxiong said excitedly. His eyes were glued to the phone screen, as if he was afraid that the words would disappear. "Happy New Year." Only 4 simple words, which was indeed in line with Yiro's style. If she said a lot of nonsense she wouldn't be Yiro. "What about you?" Fang Yin looked at Fang Haohan and asked. "Happy New Year too," Fang Haohan said. "Missy also wishes me a Happy New Year." Fang Yin sneered and said, "The same blessing must be copied and pasted." "Impossible." Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan denied at the same time. "Why is it impossible?" Fang Yingxiong and Fang Haohan looked at each other. The two of them put their phones together and studied it carefully. "Happy New Year." It was all the same words. Suddenly, Fang Haohan shouted as if he had discovered a new continent. "It's not a copy and paste. It must not be a copy and paste. Missy wrote the blessing for me and Hero herself. Look, there is a sentence after my Happy New Year, and there is an exclamation mark after Hero's Happy New Year." Fang Yingying looked at Fang Yen and said, "By the way, Junior Marshal Uncle, Missy must have sent you a message a long time ago, right? What did she say to you?" Fang Yen didn't bother to look at their complacent faces. He went to the yard and called some people. He received a lot of congratulatory messages, but some people had to be called by him personally. For example, his maternal grandparents, the principal of Rosefinch, Zhang Xiaofeng, and the principal of Ivy League High, Zhong Dei, and other elders needed Fang Yen to take the initiative to call them. Fang Yen called his grandpa and grandma first. His grandma greeted the whole family patiently and then gave the phone to his grandpa. His grandpa just asked him if he would come to Huaqing next year and when he would come to Huaqing. After getting Fang Yan's reply, he hung up the phone. Principal Zhang Xiaofeng was watching the Spring Festival Gala with his wife. He simply said a few words to Fang Yan, confirmed Fang Yan's return date after the New Year, and hung up. Zhong Dei was still drinking with his family. He was very surprised to receive Fang Yan's call. He laughed and invited Fang Yan for a drink after the New Year. After Fang Yan finished these calls, he was about to go back to his room when he saw fireworks exploding in the distant sky. The colorful fireworks lit up the night sky, making the sky above Swallow Dock glitter with red light. It looked more gorgeous and dazzling than usual. Then more fireworks soared into the sky. The flowers bloomed and the sky was lively like a fireworks show. Swallow Dock didn't have the custom of setting off fireworks. These fireworks were set off in Yanjing City or other villages around Yanjing City. Fang Yan stood in the yard and watched the fireworks for a while. Suddenly he thought of a woman who was as gorgeous as fireworks but lonely. He dialed the number and it took a while for the phone to be picked up. "Fang Yan." The woman's crisp and cold voice came from the phone. "It's me," Fang Yan said with a smile. "What are you doing? Why did you take so long to pick up?" "I just took a shower," the woman said. "When I came out I saw my phone was ringing so I picked up late." "Taking a shower?" Fang Yan imagined the image of Lu Chaoga taking off her clothes and taking a red wine bath. His handsome face suddenly turned red. These women, Fang Yan thought angrily. Every word they say carries some kind of obscure hint. If you're not careful you'll fall into their trap. "Have you had dinner?" Fang Yan asked. "Yes, I have." Lu Xiaoga's voice became gentler. "After coming back from the company I fried myself a steak and drank a bottle of red wine. I'm about to take a shower and read a book before going to bed. I don't have the habit of watching the Spring Festival Gala." "I don't have the habit of watching the Spring Festival Gala either," Fang Yan said with a smile. "Actually, there's nothing interesting about the Spring Festival Gala. Today is New Year's Eve. Why did you go to the company? The first sample is out." Lu Chaoga's voice became excited. "We've tried it on some equipment and the performance is very good. Now Chaoyan Research Institute is further optimizing and improving it. When the product is fully mature, after a 3-month run-in period, we can produce the product and send it to the market through various channels. An energy reform is about to be pulled by us. The curtain has begun. When we occupy the market, they will either cater to us or be eliminated by us. Hearing this good news, Fang Yan was also very happy and said, "You're moving very fast. I thought it would take at least 6 months to a year to see the product go online. I didn't expect you to shorten the time so much, but you still have to pay attention to the balance of work and rest. After working so hard for so long, take advantage of the Spring Festival to rest for a few days." "I don't want to rest," Lu Chaoga said. "Why?" "Because, if you rest, you don't know what to do." Fang Yan was silent. The other end of the phone stopped talking. "Yes, if you rest, you don't know what to do." It was the Spring Festival now, and today was New Year's Eve. Other families were all reunited, drinking wine, eating dumplings, watching TV and setting off fireworks, happy and harmonious. But what about Lu Chaoga? Her parents had left her a long time ago, and her sister-in-law had also passed away from her injuries some time ago. In this world she no longer had any relatives. All she had were those enemies who were like wolves and tigers. Their blood-red eyes stared fiercely at Lu Chaoga, coveting this soft woman who held the treasure in her hand. As long as they were not careful, they would be devoured by them until not even their bones were left. Even now, during the second they were talking, there were probably many people hiding in the dark who wanted to take her life or take away the Rubik's Cube technology, right? The ancients said that one must brave the dragon's pool and the tiger's den. However, because of absolute wall, Lu Chaoga was in the dragon's pool and the tiger's den every second of every day, right? When he was not there, watching was too dangerous for that woman. "I'm inviting you now. Next year you must come back with me for the Spring Festival," Fang Yan said seriously. "Okay, I promise you." Lu Chaoga laughed softly. Even on the other end of the phone, Fang Yan could hear her clear and melodious laughter. Pa! A firework bloomed beside his ear. Fang Yan looked up at the sky above him. The place where the firework was set off was very far away from him. "Someone is setting off fireworks in the neighborhood," Lu Chaoga said faintly. "What beautiful fireworks." Fang Yan finally understood that someone was setting off fireworks on Lu Chaoga's side. The sound of the fireworks exploding came through the phone, which was why Fang Yan felt it was so real and so loud. Pa, pa, pa. Fireworks rose into the sky one after another, exploding one after another. Fang Yan did not speak and neither did Lu Chaoga. Under the same starry sky, the two of them enjoyed different fireworks. Two people snuggling up to each other and enjoying fireworks together was romantic, but one person enjoying fireworks alone was a waste. Like the moon, like the stars, you're seductive, blooming, crying so loudly, who is it setting your clothes on fire, tasting the wind and rain, you are so beautiful and sad, after prosperity is desolation, after desolation is forgetting, why not to bury my body with it? The wine of tears, drinking full of vicissitudes, distant so far, missing so long, fireworks were lonely, she was even more lonely than fireworks. Chapter 407. Fireworks, Silver Flowers and Sleepless Nights. The sound of fireworks and firecrackers didn't stop. Because it was close to midnight, they were getting more and more frequent in the starry sky where Fang Yan wasn't thousands of miles away. Lu Chaoga didn't speak again and neither did Fang Yan. Lu Chaoga was focused on watching the fireworks, and Fang Yan was watching the fireworks with her on the other end of the phone. At this time, words had become a superfluous and inappropriate way of communication. She was really lonely during the festival alone, so he accompanied her on the phone. For him, he could only do this much. For her, this was enough. Time passed by and the fireworks were set off one after another. They wanted to continue like this. Until the sky fell and the earth cracked, until the seas dried up and the rocks rotted, until the mountains became flat, until the sky and the earth merged, until the smartphone ran out of battery. Yes, just as Fang Yan thought that they were going to continue in this wonderful state for a long time, the phone placed by his ear began to heat up, and there was a beep 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 sound of battery alarm. According to Fang Yan's experience, he knew that the phone's battery was about to run out. The battery life of today's smartphones was too short. When their new energy technology, the Rubik's Cube, was popularized, this problem could be solved. A battery could be used for half a month, and the wife would have to worry about the problem of her husband not coming home. Is the phone out of battery? Lu Chaoga, who was on the other end of the phone, also heard the beep sound. She said with a smile, "Fang Yan, thank you for watching the fireworks with me. I'm very calm now and I don't feel very lonely. The fireworks tonight are really beautiful." Fang Yen nodded. After nodding, he remembered that Lu Chaoga couldn't see him at all, so he quickly said, "The fireworks tonight are very beautiful." "Then that's it," Lu Chaoga said. "I think you must be very busy tonight." "I'm not very busy," Fang Yen said. "He didn't do much tonight. He just chased away a killer, saved a family's life, received a few messages, made a few phone calls, and was despised by Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan." Dang dang dang, the old bell in the east of the village was rung by the bellkeeper, which meant that the old year had passed and the new year had arrived. It meant that Swallow Fort had protected Wuxia for another year. It meant that Wuxia had been blessed with good weather and a bumper harvest. The country was prosperous and the people were at peace. Saying goodbye to the old year and welcoming the new year was indeed something worth ringing the bell to boast about. "Happy New Year," Lu Chaoga said. "Happy New Year," Fang Yen said. After thinking for a while, he added, "I'll be returning to Flower City soon. Yes, the students are about to start school. See you in Flower City. See you in Flower City." Fang Yen hung up the call with Lu Chaoga. He was about to go back to his room to change the battery when the phone in his hand rang again. Fang Yen looked at the caller ID and answered the call again. He smiled and said, "Jiang Qin, Happy New Year." "Mr. Fang, Happy New Year," Jiang Qin's sweet voice came through the phone. "Mr. Fang, who are you talking to? I've been calling for half an hour. Your phone has been busy. I didn't know you were a talkative person before." Fang Yen smiled and said, "I've been calling my friends to wish me a Happy New Year." I wanted to be the first to wish you a Happy New Year," Jiang Qin said, feeling wronged. "Am I the first person to wish you a Happy New Year?" "No," Fang Yen said honestly. The first person to wish him a Happy New Year was Lu Chaoga. Their phone call went from last year to the new year. "Ah!" Jiang Qin shouted with dissatisfaction. "Who was earlier than me? Who took my first place?" Fang Yen smiled and said, "What's the big deal about being first and second? It's fine as long as you get it. Are your parents there? Give them the phone. I'll wish them a Happy New Year." After Fang Yen changed the battery on his phone, Yuan Lin happened to call. Fang Yen also wished her parents a Happy New Year. Fang Yen was going to take some time to give Xia Tian a call, but he didn't expect Xia Tian to call him. "Mr. Fang, are you busy today?" Xia Tian's voice was very lazy, as if she had just woken up and was lying in bed. "No matter how busy a teacher is, he's not as busy as a celebrity," Fang Yen said with a smile. "Why do I feel like you're sleeping?" "Yes. After dinner I felt sleepy, so I lay in bed and slept. I was just woken up by the sound of firecrackers outside and thought that the new year had arrived. I turned on my phone and gave you a call for a Happy New Year. It's only midnight and you've been asleep?" Fang Yan's face was full of surprise. "Tonight? How do you have time to sleep?" According to Fang Yan's understanding of the life of a celebrity, wasn't the new year the busiest time for them? Gala, running, cocktail parties, all kinds of etiquette. Even if they didn't attend the Spring Festival Gala of Wuxia TV station, they would attend the New Year's Eve Gala of the local TV station. Even if they didn't attend TV programs, they had to attend some New Year's parties. With Xia Tian's popularity, how could she have time to lie at home and sleep in? "I don't want to attend any gala this year. I rejected all the activities." Xia Tian giggled, sounding very happy. "I just want to have a meal with my family, and then lie in bed and have a good sleep. I've been busy outside for a whole year and it's really tiring. After dinner I turned off my phone. No one can find me and I can't see or hear any messages or phone calls. This trick really works and now I'm in a much better mood. It seems that all the hard work of the year has been compensated in this sleep." "Rich people are so willful," Fang Yen said with a smile. "If I knew earlier I would also turn off my phone and sleep like you." "You can't turn off your phone. If you turn off your phone I won't be able to call you," Xia Tian said. "I haven't had time to ask, what is your relationship with that little girl?" "Little girl? What little girl?" "The little girl I saw," Xia Tian said with a smile. "It's rare to see a little girl like that. There's only one in our Yanjing city for hundreds of years. The little princess of the Qin family. Mr. Fang, I found out that your way is very wild. It's not easy for us to meet, but we're standing at the entrance of the club to wait for you." "She's my student," Fang Yen said. "That's all?" "That's all," Fang Yen said. Lanshan Valley also called to pay their New Year's greetings, and the willow tree sent a greeting message. Fang Yen was much busier this spring festival than in previous years. Unknowingly, there were so many people around him. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan prepared firecrackers in advance and set them off on bamboo poles, which was called Welcome the New Year. After welcoming the new year, Fang Yen personally went to the kitchen to cut 2 plates of braised meat and walked to the backyard with them. He knew that the old drunkard must not be asleep at this time. The old drunkard was indeed not asleep. He was making wine in the yard. The old drunkard liked to drink and also liked to make wine. Every year on the first day of the new year, he would brew a jar of wine, which was called new wine. The new year would have a new beginning. Perhaps this also represented some of the persistence and hope in his heart. Fang Yen and the old drunkard sat opposite each other and drank. Each of them had a big bowl and they drank a bowl of wine in one gulp. Fang Yen ate and drank at the same time, while the old drunkard only drank and didn't eat. It was as if drinking could fill him up, and things like meat and vegetables were unnecessary to him. "Who is it?" the old drunkard asked. The old drunkard drank all day, but it didn't mean that he knew nothing about the family. On the contrary, because of his presence, because of him, the Fang family had always been peaceful. Tonight, when Fang Yen went out to catch the murderer, the person who protected the Fang family was this old drunkard who didn't even want to eat with others during the New Year's Eve dinner. "I only have some clues, but I can't be sure yet," Fang Yen said in a deep voice. However, this time they want to wipe out the Fang family. There are only a few opponents who can be so generous. A fox will always show its tail, and a fly will always be unable to resist eating *T again. Since they are doing this, they can't blame us for not stopping until one of us is dead. "Just kill them," the old drunkard burped and said calmly. Fang Yen smiled and said, "In the past, you were the one who supported the family, but now I will. Don't worry, we won't fall. Just drink your wine and leave everything else to me." "I will drink the wine that I should drink and I will kill the people that I should kill," the old drunkard said with a clear voice, like a knife burning in a bowl. "I'm only a cripple, not a dead person. Even a stray dog or cat dares to bully us. Do they think the Fang family is nobody?" "You're not a cripple, it's just that your meridians." The old drunkard cut off Fang Yen and said, "There was a climber who was good at climbing the mountain, but when he was about to reach the top he was kicked down. No matter how hard that person tried, they would only be able to climb to the middle of the mountain. Can you still say that person is good at climbing?" Fang Yan's eyes were filled with fighting spirit, saying, "So, I made a decision." The old drunkard looked at Fang Yan with a burning gaze, waiting for him to continue. "I want to challenge Dragon God Wuxia," Fang Yan said very seriously. "He broke 2 of your meridians, I cut off 2 of his dragon claws." "That's fair." Clang. The old drunkard's finger tapped the side of the bowl, letting out a clear metallic sound. "I've been waiting for these words for too many years," the old drunkard said with an excited voice. "A man's ambition is to leave the village and not return until he becomes famous. There's no need for the red earth to bury one's bones, there are mountains of gold at the end of the world. Martial artists of our generation should have such lofty ambitions. I want to avenge you. Our Fang family isn't that easy to bully. When do you want to challenge the dragon god?" "When my heart of Taiji enters the water overflow realm, I will definitely fight against the dragon god inside the red wall," Fang Yen said. "I believe that day will come very soon." Chapter 408. It was the first day of the new year. According to the customs of the north, every year on the first day of the new year, one had to go to the houses of the villagers to celebrate the new year. They first went to the most senior in the village, then to the oldest, then to their relatives, friends, neighbors, and companions. In the past, it was always Fang Yixing who represented the Fang family to visit each house. Some people would comfort him, some would tease him, and some would even drag him to spar with him. Everyone knew that Fang Yixing didn't like martial arts and abandoned martial arts to pursue literature. Wasn't it insulting to ask Fang Yixing to spar with him? Fang Yixing could only refuse again and then let others laugh at him for a while. The Fang family's reputation gradually declined. This year, Fang Huwei asked Fang Yen to accompany Fang Yixing to celebrate the new year. Since the old man had spoken, Fang Yen couldn't disobey. He could only wake up early and put on the green robe and 1,000-soled cloth boots that his mother had prepared for him in advance. The boots were made in an antique style to prevent the deep snow from pouring into the shoes and soaking his socks. Fang Yixing still wore simple round cloth shoes. As the head of the family, he had to have the air of a refined elder. He had to endure the cold. This was what it meant to be graceful and not warm. The most respected person in Swallow Dock was the teacher. Everyone in Swallow Dock had to go and pay their New Year's greetings to him. The Yi family was known as the #1 family in Swallow Dock, so they had to send a representative to celebrate the new year with the teacher. Fang Yen held the gift box and followed behind Fang Yixing. The father and son treaded through the snow toward the teacher's small house. When the father and son walked over, there were already many people ahead of them. The teacher finally took off his grayish-brown leather coat and changed into a silver-white tang suit. He sat upright on the mahogany chair in the living room, receiving the kowtows of the young people and children. There were also some middle-aged people who knelt down and kowtowed, but most of them bowed at the waist. After the children finished kowtowing, they presented the gift box in their hands. Bai Xiu, who was standing next to the teacher, took the gift box. The teacher reached out to touch the child's head and said, "You can go to the family school for enlightenment." And so, the child kowtowed again. The child's parents also expressed their gratitude happily. Some of the children who were already studying in the family school would also send gifts. The teacher patted the student's head and said, "You're clever enough, but you lack patience. He should use your family's learning stone to train his qi and temper his mind." The students lowered their heads to receive the lesson, and the parents also had to express their gratitude. All the uninitiated children in Swallow Dock had to be approved by the teachers to enter the school, and the students who were already studying would receive the teacher's comments, pointing out their strengths and weaknesses, and pointing out solutions to problems. Fang Yin and Fang Yixing stood outside the house. The weather was freezing, but the father and son did not feel cold at all. Fang Yin looked at the growing queue and said with a smile, "Sir, isn't this a monopoly in the industry? Our Swallow Dock only has one family school, and all children of the right age have to go to school with his permission. This job of his is a guaranteed income." Fang Yixing glanced at Fang Yin sternly and said, "Don't talk nonsense. Mr. is wholeheartedly devoted to the public. What is a gift worth? In my opinion, we should come and thank you on every festival." Fang Yin was helpless. His father was too old-fashioned. He was just joking when he was bored. Not only his father but many people in Swallow Dock had developed this habit of being old-fashioned. This was also the reason why Mr. always emphasized that every family should send out some talented children. This was also the reason why Lu Daoling wanted to bring out some outstanding young people. Only with a big vision could one have a big heart and big vision. It was not a good thing for Swallow Dock to close its doors, and many things outside were also the best. Take the best and discard the dregs. This was the situation that Swallow Dock needed to change the most. Fang Yin understood, so he went out. Fang Yixing might also understand, but character could not be developed overnight. Instead, he was led forward by the old rules of the village, and was not willing to make new changes. Finally, it was the father and son's turn. Fang Yixing and Fang Yin both knelt down and kowtowed to Mr. seriously. After Fang Yixing said some auspicious words on behalf of the Fang family, Fang Yin handed over the gift box in his hand. Mr. looked at Fang Yin with a smile and said, "You are too slippery. Usually I can't get you to kowtow." Fang Yin felt wronged and said, "Mister, you have wronged me. When do I not come to kowtow to you during Chinese New Year? I kowtowed just now. If you think it is too little, I can kowtow a few more for you." Mr. was very happy to see Fang Yin and said, "You don't have to kowtow. You have 3 hearts and more than 10 guts. I have nothing to say to you, and I have nothing to teach you. Just remember our agreement." Fang Yin nodded seriously and said, "Mister, I remember." Mr. looked at Fang Yixing and said, "Yixing has a good son." Fang Yixing's face was flushed and he thanked him repeatedly. From the beginning to the end, Mr. never mentioned the sword that he lost. If Mr. didn't mention it, Fang Yin wouldn't take the initiative to mention it. Both of them pretended that it had never happened. Bai Xiu looked at Fang Yin and everyone else with a gentle smile. After Fang Yin got up from the ground, he said to Bai Xiu, "If you are tired of standing, let me stand for you for a while." Bai Xiu refused indifferently and said, "If there is anything, I will do it. As your disciple, I naturally have to do my best." Fang Yin was helpless. Bai Xiu's words were equivalent to poking Fang Yan's sore spot. Bai Xiu was Mr.'s disciple, but Fang Yin wasn't. Bai Xiu could be a teacher in the family school, but Fang Yin didn't have the chance to be a teacher there. Mr. taught Bai Xiu everything he had learned in his life, and Bai Xiu was Mr.'s successor. His words were above board, and others really couldn't compete with him for this position. After leaving Mr.'s place, Fang Yixing took Fang Yin and rushed to the Yi family. The Yi family's ancestor was currently the oldest person in Swallow Dock, and the Yi family was also relatively close to the Fang family. With Fang Hui's secret instructions, Fang Yixing naturally wouldn't go against his father's wishes. When the Fang family's father and son arrived, Yi Fengxing, who looked like a giant Fua doll, was about to leave. He saw Fang Yin and said happily, "Why are you up so early?" "I was going to kowtow to your grandpa Fang after I'm done kowtowing to Mr." I was also forcefully pulled up, Fang Yan said with a smile. I've already been to Mr., so I'm here to kowtow to the ancestor now. Actually, he said he was here to kowtow to the Yi family's ancestor, but the Yi family's ancestor wasn't very willing to see guests all these years. Therefore he was just going through the motions at the Yi family. We just missed it, Yi Fengxing said regretfully. Where's third uncle? Third uncle rushed back to Yanjing after New Year's Eve dinner last night. Today he's going overseas with the minister, Yi Fengxing said. Yi Daowen walked out the door and saw the Fang family's father and son. He said, Yixing Happy New Year. Fang Yan Happy New Year. Big brother Yi Happy New Year. Fang Yixing and Yi Daowen cupped their fists and bowed. Uncle, I'm here to wish you a Happy New Year. Fang Yan said with a smile. I wish you happiness as vast as the East Sea and longevity as long as the South Mountain. Yi Daowen waved his hand and said, These words are for the ancestor to hear. The ancestor just said that you and your son should go directly to the warm pavilion. I won't entertain you guys, I still have to go congratulate Mr. Fang Yixing was overjoyed and said, Big brother Yi, go do what you need to do. We'll go to the warm pavilion and kowtow to the ancestor. Thus, the two groups of people parted at the entrance of the courtyard. Fang Yixing was incomparably emotional and said to Fang Yan in a low voice, This time I've benefited from you. In the past, when I came to kowtow to the ancestor during the spring festival, I've never entered the warm pavilion. Maybe the ancestor's mood is especially good this year. Fang Yan said with a smile. Fang Yixing looked at his son with a smile and didn't say anything. He thought to himself, perhaps what his father said was really feasible. It was the attitude of the Yi brothers. I'm afraid this is not going to be easy to pass. The father and son of the Fang family entered the warm pavilion. The Yi family's ancestor Yi Wenro and the servant girl Shi sat on the warm kong and played cards. Fang Yixing was the first to kneel down and kowtow 3 times to the ancestor. He also said a lot of blessings. The father had already knelt down, how could the son stand? Fang Yan also quickly followed behind Fang Yixing and knelt down. When the father and son of the Fang family knelt down, Yi Wenro and the servant girl Shi moved to the side. The father and son of the Fang family were kneeling to the ancestor, and the two of them could not accept it. All right, all of you get up. The ancestor squinted his eyes and smiled. All day long I've heard you guys talk about living longer than Mount Nanshan. Who can live longer than a mountain? Wouldn't that be a living fossil? Ancestor, some mines were emptied in 2 or 3 years. Fang Yan said. You've lived much longer than those mountains. The ancestor couldn't help but laugh. He pointed at Fang Yan and said, Ever since he was young, this naughty monkey only knows how to make me happy. It's my fault for not disciplining him well. Ancestor, don't lower yourself to the level of these children. Fang Yixing smiled and apologized. He could also see that the ancestor wasn't really angry with Fang Yan. How can you control whether a child becomes a talent or not? That's taught. The ancestor said. Fang Yan is very good. Whether it's in our swallow fort or outside, he's a first-class talent. Last night when we were having dinner, third bro praised him a lot. The third brother that the ancestor mentioned was the third tiger of the Yi family's 3 tigers, Yi Daoling. Yi Daoling praised Fang Yan at dinner. First, he was indeed grateful for Fang Yan's help. Second, he wanted to encourage the Yi family's children to work hard and improve. No wonder when Fang Yan came in, he saw that the Yi family's people looked at him strangely. It was as if he stole their chicken to set up an ambush. But have you considered Fang Yan's feelings? From Fang Yan's point of view, Yi Daoling, this old fox, was drawing hatred for him. Chapter 409. Some compliments would make you feel sweet in your heart but disgusted in your mouth. For example, when someone compliments your child. Fang Yixing could hear the old ancestor's love for Fang Yan, but he couldn't follow the old ancestor's words and compliment his own son. If he did that, people would think that he didn't know what was good for him. That's Dao Ling's love for Fang Yan. He's causing trouble outside and it's all thanks to Dao Ling's help. Fang Yixing said modestly. I wanted to find time to invite Dao Ling to our house for a drink, but I didn't expect him to be in such a hurry to go to Yanjing City. Dao Ling's promotion has to be celebrated. The old ancestor waved her hand and said, Stop. I don't want to hear about these things. What's the use of telling an old lady like me about the matters of you youngsters? I know you're all busy today and have many families to visit. Yixing, go to your work. Fang Yan, stay here and play with me. She is clumsy and can't even compare to an old lady like me. Fang Yixing quickly got up from the ground and said, Okay. I'll go to the other families. There really are many families to visit today and I have to visit every single one of them. Otherwise it'll be rude. He then turned around and reminded Fang Yen, play cards with the old ancestor and don't make her angry. That I know. Fang Yen said. Yi Wenru had been kneeling in the corner of the Kong. She was wearing a red button-down blouse with gold-trimmed flowers and a soft black cotton dress. Her long hair was tied up and her face was ruddy. She looked like a pretty wife. Fang Yen heard from Yi Fengxing that Yi Ro's mother loved needlework. Every spring festival, she would personally sew clothes for her children. She also took care of all the New Year clothes for the Yi family's elders and children. The Fua suit that Yi Fengxing was wearing should have been made by Yi Wenru's mother. The style of the suit was not bad, but there was too much fat on Yi Fengxing's body, making the suit look a little out of place. Yi Ro's classical style suit was probably made by her mother. The stitches were dense and the patterns were bright. The red and gold complemented each other. Red makes gold dazzling and gold makes red noble. Yi Ro looked quite lovely and cheerful in this set of clothes, which concealed much of her cold and aloof character. She was scolded by the old ancestor for being clumsy. She purposely pouted and said, I am stupid. Otherwise, why can I only be a maid for the old ancestor? If I was smart, I would have followed Miss to learn martial arts. The great ancestor reached out to pull Shear's mouth and said, You little girl, you're still not happy with my words. See if I don't tear your mouth off. Shear giggled and dodged. She said to Fang Yen, Why don't you take off your shoes and come up? Do you want me to take off your shoes for you? I only serve old ancestor and little miss. No need, no need. Fang Yen knew that she had a sharp tongue and was deeply loved by the old ancestor. She had a high status in the Yi family. It was impossible to ask her to take off his shoes. Besides, Fang Yen didn't have the habit of asking others to help him take off his shoes. Unless someone held a knife to his neck and forced him to take off his shoes. I'll do it myself. Fang Yen took off his cloth boots and climbed onto the warm Kong barefoot. He sat where Shear had been sitting and said, Shall we start now? How do we play? According to the game. The winner takes all, and the losers each lose 100. The great ancestor said. You didn't bring money, did you? Yes, Fang Yen said with a smile. Old ancestor, are you worried that I can't pay the bill? I'm afraid that you'll run away after you lose, the great ancestor said. Other children don't dare. You dare. Fang Yen smiled shyly and said, Old ancestor, you have a misunderstanding about me. I never owe anything. There was a small square table on the Kong. The great ancestor sat on the inner side while Fang Yen and Yi Ro sat on the left and right facing the door. Fang Yen quickly shuffled the cards and then the game began. It was unknown whether Fang Yen was lucky or scheming, but he won several times in a row. The great ancestor and Yi Ro kept giving him money, and the small drawer in front of him was soon filled with 100 yuan bills. Fang Yen was full of excitement. He changed to a more comfortable position and said, It seems that I'm going to make a fortune today. Bah. He was kicked in the shin under the table. Only then did Fang Yen realize that he had stretched his leg in front of Yi Ro. He asked, Why did you kick me? My feet smell, Yi Ro said expressionlessly. The great ancestor smiled and said, It's a little smelly. I can smell it. Fang Yen awkwardly took his foot back and put it under his butt again. He wished he could change to a lying position. In that case, his feet would be able to hide far away. Fang Yen won again. Yi Ro and the great ancestor paid again. Bah. Fang Yan's knee was kicked again. This time, Fang Yan's leg didn't stretch out randomly. It was Yi Ro who stretched her foot under the table and kicked him. Fang Yen felt very wronged. He looked at Yi Ro and said, Why did you kick me again? Feet smell, Yi Ro said. The great ancestor glanced at Yi Ro and said, You child, even if Fang Yan's feet smell a little, you can't let people cut off his feet and put them in front of the door of the warm room, and then put them on when he goes out, can you? Fang Yen laughed and said, The great ancestor is quite humorous. They played another round and the great ancestor won. Fang Yen paid quickly. This time Yi Ro didn't kick Fang Yen under the table. Fang Yen sighed in his heart. People under other people's eaves had to lose money. Creak. A black Mercedes-Benz parked in the flat dojo of Swallow Dock, followed by another Mercedes-Benz. The third was still a Mercedes-Benz, the fourth was an extended Rolls-Royce, and the fifth and sixth were still Mercedes-Benz. The 6 black luxury cars formed a black mighty long dragon, and the Rolls-Royce surrounded by the 5 Mercedes-Benz was naturally the heart of this long dragon. Except for the Rolls-Royce that didn't move, the doors of the other 5 Mercedes-Benz opened with bangs. Then the tall men in black scattered in all directions, looking around with vigilance. Another 2 men in black stood on the left and right of the Rolls-Royce's door and took the initiative to help open the back door. She wore a white down jacket and a pair of sky blue jeans. The furry snow boots added a bit of playfulness to her appearance. She wore a checkered scarf around her neck, looking like a girl next door who was studying in a foreign place or a girl next door who worked in a big city and went home to visit her relatives during the spring festival. The girl's small boots stepped on the black soil of the dojo, asking with a sweet voice, "How am I dressed?" A tall and handsome young man in a well-tailored suit stood behind the girl, sizing up the Swallows Dock village that was surrounded by heavy snow and said, "Very good. It meets your requirements. To make people feel close but not oppressive." The girl giggled and said, "When there's a sense of oppression, there'll be a sense of distance. That's not good, miss. Is this really worth it?" The man couldn't help but ask. "You have everything. Wisdom, beauty, kindness, wealth, as well as the power that ordinary people yearn for in their entire lives. You have this world and you also have the right to rule over it. You should be standing proudly in the sky, coldly looking down on the living beings of this world. You've mixed yourself with the grass and trees, staining the bottom of your crystal shoes with mud. Don't you think that's a bit too much?" "You saved me," Qin Tian replied. "Many people have saved you," the young man replied. He pointed at the black-clothed people around him, then at himself, saying, "They, including me, we've always been prepared to sacrifice ourselves to protect you." Qin Tian went silent for a bit, then asked, "Muing, do you know Zhang Ailing?" "I do," Muing replied. "She wrote this on the back of Hu Lanqing's photo. In front of you, I've become very, very low to the point of being a speck of dust. But my heart likes it, a flower blooming from the dust." Qin Tian's voice was light. "I really like this sentence. I feel that it's a true reflection of me. I know that I have a lot, but I'm willing to share what I have with him or let him enjoy it alone. I'm willing. That's enough, isn't it?" Muing lightly sighed and said, "Although I feel that what you said is very reasonable, for some reason I still find it hard to accept." "Because you're a man," Qin Tian replied. "And because you don't understand how desperate a woman's sacrifice can be. For example, taking a bullet for him?" Qin Tian nodded and said, "For example, taking a bullet for him, he must have saved the galaxy in his previous life." "No, that's something Superman would do," Qin Tian replied. She glanced at the bodyguards in black who were scattered around vigilantly and said in a crisp voice, "I didn't bring you here to protect me, and no one will hurt me in Swallow Dock. Take out all the gifts I brought. We're going to pay our teacher a New Year's greetings." As a result, the group of black-clothed bodyguards, who were domineering and had murderous looks in their eyes, became pitiful laborers. They used their hands to carry, shoulders to hug, and carried a large number of expensive gifts towards the village of Swallow Dock. Even the pretty boy Muing didn't run away, carrying a birdcage in one hand as he followed behind Qin Tian. This New Year greeting army was too strange and eye-catching, attracting the attention of many people in Swallow Dock. A few people pointed at them, discussing something in low voices. Qin Tian clasped his hands at an old woman at the entrance of the alley and said, "Sister, Happy New Year. Where's Teacher Fang Yan's house?" This sister made the old woman very happy. She pointed at the fish pond in front of them and said, "Go straight. You'll see that fish pond at the end. The one whose courtyard is directly facing the fish pond is the Fang family." "Thank you, sister," Qin Tian said gratefully. Chapter 410. The arrival of Qin Tian not only shocked the whole Swallow Dock, but also shocked all the people in the Fang family. Lu Wan was receiving guests in the living room. She heard from Fang Yingying that Fang Yan's student came to visit, so she came out to greet them politely. As soon as she walked out of the house, she saw a beautiful girl greeting her with a smile. She said, "Andy, Happy New Year. I'm Qin Tian, Mr. Fang Yan's student. I'm here to wish you a Happy New Year." Lu Wan suddenly felt dizzy. This girl was how should she describe her? She was too beautiful, too clean, too cute, too smart, and too decent. Lu Wan was also a girl from a scholarly family. She was very picky about women. Both appearance and temperament were indispensable. She was beautiful on the outside and beautiful on the inside. However, even with her picky eyes, she still felt that this girl had no flaws. If there was anything that worried him, it would be that this girl was too pretty, too clean, too cute, too smart, too generous, and a little too decent. How could his ugly son be worthy of such a girl? If they got married in the future, would her son be able to subdue the girl? What if her son was bullied by this girl? "Oh, this is Fang Yan's student." Lu Wan thought of her self-introduction and then reacted. She felt a little happy but more melancholy. How could she be a student? Lu Wan greeted her with a smile and said, "You are Etienne, right? This name is so impressive. It's cold outside. Come in and warm yourself. Where does Etienne come from? Is it hard to walk on the road?" She originally wanted to hold Qin Etienne's hand to appear more intimate. But she didn't know why this girl, who looked simple, always gave people a sense of oppression that kept people thousands of miles away. Her words and actions, her frown, and her smile were so comfortable and natural, but this kind of comfort made people feel that she was unattainable. Lu Wan was also a woman who had seen the world, but she didn't understand why she had such a strange feeling for this young girl. "Auntie, I came from Yanjing. It's not far," Qin Etienne said with a smile. "It's very convenient." "How thoughtful of you. It's really an honor for Fang Yen to have a student like you." Lu Wan couldn't help belittling her son. "Come in and take a seat." He then commanded Fang Yingying and said, "Hero, quickly call Fang Yen. Tell him to come back quickly." "All right. I'll call Junior Marshal Uncle now." Fang Yingying nodded. Qin Etienne glanced at Eagle Mu beside him and said, "Let them bring the gifts in." Eagle Mu made a gesture, and a row of black-clothed men carrying large and small boxes walked towards the Fang family's courtyard. Not until then did Lu Wan know that there were so many people outside the yard. She looked at the scene with her eyes wide open and mouth agape, saying, "Young lady, this is not appropriate, right? We can't accept so many gifts from you." Lu Wan began to worry. What kind of person was this girl? Why did he bring so many helpers with him? Was she the daughter of a gangster? If she was a gangster, there was nothing to be afraid of. However, there was no trace of violence or hostility in her temperament and demeanor. It was obvious that she came from a rich family. Such a girl, Fang Yen, that silly boy, would be even less likely to marry her. Lu Wan sighed softly. It seemed that she had thought too much. Whenever he saw a beautiful girl, he couldn't help wanting her to be his daughter-in-law. How could it be so easy? Qin Etienne took Lu Wan's hand and said, "Auntie, you don't have to be so polite. Fang Yen is my teacher and he has helped me a lot. I came to pay a New Year's visit to Mr. Fang, so of course I should bring him a gift. How can I not bring gifts for your uncle and auntie if I bring gifts for your teacher? If others know, won't they say that I don't know etiquette? It's not appropriate. It's not appropriate." Lu Wan looked at the group of men in black walking past her and said anxiously, even if Fang Yen really helped this girl in her studies, she couldn't accept such an expensive gift. Fang Yingying hung up Fang Yan's phone and eagerly took the birdcage from Mu Ying's hand. Mu Ying looked at him with a smile but didn't give him the gift. Fang Yingying didn't force him. He went to the back and took a big wooden box from the hands of a man in black. Hearing the noise in the yard, Fang Yisin and his husband Fang Hao, Fang Yiling and her husband Zhao Qingxin, Fang Yijing and her husband Zhou Fan, Zhou Mingli, and a few children all ran out to see what was going on. Zhao Qingxin's Zhao family had a small business in Yanjing City. Seeing the row of men in black, he couldn't help but be surprised. He glanced at the men in black, but couldn't see which family they came from. Then he laughed at himself, thinking that no matter which family they came from, they must be the family that he had never been in contact with. Fang Hao looked at his wife in confusion. Fang Yisin shook his head, indicating that he also didn't know what was going on. Because of what happened last night, Zhou Fan didn't go out for the whole morning. He even hid in the room and ate a bowl of dumplings for breakfast. Fang Yisin knew that her husband hadn't recovered from the nightmare, so she accompanied him in the room for the whole morning. Hearing the voices outside, she dragged her husband out to see what was going on. When Zhou Fan saw Qin Etienne walking over hand in hand with Lu Wan, his first reaction was that she was beautiful. This girl was as beautiful as a fairy. His second reaction was the grandeur. Whose family's young lady was this? She brought along so many bodyguards and prepared such heavy gifts on a single trip. Zhou Fan calculated in his mind by elimination. No one in the group he knew dared to compete with this girl in terms of grandeur. If Zhou Fan knew that Qin Etienne didn't want to be too high profile and had reduced the number of his guards by more than half, what would he think? After the incident in Huaqing, the Qin family attached great importance to Qin Etienne's safety. The old master of the Qin family even wanted to assign his guards to his favorite granddaughter, but the Qin family refused. Qin Etienne's legendary mother had sent Eagle Mu to her daughter's side so that he could protect her. This was also the reason why Qin Etienne had Mu Ying by his side after he came back from Huaqing. Mu Ying was now the captain of Qin Etienne's guards, who led the whole security team and was responsible for Qin Etienne's safety. "Who is he?" Zhou Fan asked in a low voice. "I don't know." Fang Yisin shook his head. "I haven't seen him before. I think he is Fang Yan's student. Can you tell who this student is?" Zhou Fan smiled bitterly and said, "How can I tell? Go and ask around." Zhou Fan's heart was filled with emotion. When he first arrived, he didn't give a damn about the Fang family. He felt that his father-in-law's family in the suburbs of Yanjing had made him suffer a lot and humiliated him. He also looked down on Fang Yan. He felt that his nephew, who was a teacher in Huaqing, was too shabby. He even bragged that he would get him a new job. Now, looking at the things he had done and the people he had come into contact with, he had long left his uncle far behind. Take this student as an example. With the extravagance she displayed today, as long as she casually moved her lips, she would definitely be able to find a better job for Fang Yan. Moreover, such a beautiful student came to visit her teacher with such an expensive gift. Was there a deeper meaning behind it? Zhou Fan felt that he was really an idiot. He was the biggest idiot in the world. Zhou Mingli was shocked when he saw Qin Tian. He didn't expect there to be such a beautiful girl. The so-called prettiest girl in the class that he had been sending messages to pursue couldn't be compared with the girl in front of him. He stared at Qin Tian with wide eyes and a face full of infatuation. He wanted to greet her in a cool way, just like how he flirted with other girls at school. However, as soon as he had this idea, he began to become nervous. He was at a loss and his hair stood on end. It was as if he was not facing a peerless beauty but a fierce monster. Moreover, Qin Tian was walking towards him. The closer Qin Tian got, the more intense his heart beat. Finally, dense beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Qin Tian walked to Zhou Mingli and nodded to him like other juniors of the Fang family. Then she walked past him. Zhou Mingli didn't dare to look directly at Qin Tian's eyes. At the moment when she nodded, he couldn't help blushing and hurriedly lowered his head. When Qin Tian went far away, he was annoyed and felt that he was such a failure. After Qin Tian entered the house, those men in black also stood at the door of the living room with gift boxes in their hands. Lu Wan looked at Qin Tian and waited for his arrangement. She couldn't ask them to put away these gifts, nor could she ask so many people to put down the gifts and leave. There had to be a rule, right? Qin Tian smiled and took Lu Wan to the first man in black. He opened the golden brocade box held by him and looked at the gifts inside. He said, "There is nothing special about this one. The red ink stone produced in Heishan has a strong ink color. The color hasn't faded after thousands of years. When it is ground, it has a strange fragrance. I know that you like calligraphy, so this stone is to add a touch of color to your masterpiece." Lu Wan was so shocked that her jaw almost fell to the ground. She said, "It is said that this ink stone can only be formed after thousands of years. It is one of the most precious treasures in the world. It is rare in the world and hard to find." Lu Wan looked at the large ink stone lying in the brocade box and gasped. She said, "Miss, this gift is really too precious. We can't accept it." Chapter 411. If people like Fang Hao and Zhao Qingxin didn't know the value of the ink stone, it was understandable. After all, the ink stone rarely appeared in the world. Many people had never even heard of it, let alone seen it with their own eyes. It was said that because when Yuka had obtained a piece of ink stone, the bamboos he drew were different from other people. They looked vivid and lifelike as if they were alive. Chao Buji wrote a poem for him in which there were 2 lines. "You can draw bamboo, you have a well-thought-out plan." This was also the origin of the idiom, "have a well-thought-out plan," in later generations. Under the influence of her father, Lu Gong, Lu Wan was well-read. There was nothing she didn't know about astronomy, geography, classics, and history. If Qin Tian hadn't pointed out the origin of this stone, she herself wouldn't have been able to see its strangeness. However, when Qin Tian pointed out that this stone came from the Black Mountain in the far west and said its name, Lu Wan understood the true value of this stone. There was a strange saying, "Black heart magic stone can be seen, but red heart ink stone is hard to find." The stone in the box was the red heart ink stone that the ancients said was the most difficult to find. The middle part of it was dark red like burning charcoal. One tael of black jade was worth 500 kilograms, so how much was such a big piece of black jade worth? Some things were so rare that it was difficult to measure their value with money. Because even if you had money, you might not be able to buy it. A treasured sword should be given to a hero, and a piece of black jade should be given to a master, Qin Tian said with a smile. "When I go home, I'll ask my uncle to give me a painting." Qin Tian ignored Lu Wan's objection and opened the second box held by the man in black. He glanced at the thing inside and said, "This is a phoenix coral from the East Sea. I have 2 pots at home, but it's a bit repetitive to place them, so I brought Andy 1 pot. Qin Tian glanced at the living room, pointed to a square mahogany table in the corner and said, "Put it there." Etienne, this isn't appropriate, it's really not appropriate. Lu Wan still wanted to stop him. Qin Etienne opened the big box in the hands of the third man in black. There was a small silver bowl in the small bowl. There was a piece of black stuff in the small bowl. This was the ointment made from the shell of the black tortoise. It was cut into the size of a fingernail and placed in the silver bowl. After mixing it with warm water, it could be applied to the face before going to bed at night to keep youthful. Swallowing it could replenish qi, blood and spirit. Auntie, this is a gift specially prepared for you. You can try it later. If the effect is good, I'll cut more for you. Sure. The three Fang sisters sucked in a breath of cold air. This kind of thing was fatally attractive to women. Qin Etienne opened the fourth huge box. Inside the box was a beautiful fish tank. 2 red fish were swimming in it, and there was a rootless plant that looked like a lotus leaf floating on the surface of the water. Qin Etienne obviously liked this gift very much. He held Lu Wan's hand and introduced it. Auntie, there are 2 red dragons inside. I've raised them for a few years. They're not valuable, but I like this bunch of rootless white lotus the most. It's from the Changbai Heavenly Lake. Just like now, it floats on the surface of the water without roots. When it blooms white lotus, it can fill the whole house, even the whole yard, with a refreshing fragrance. Diste? Many people couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Qin Etienne still wanted to open the box below, but he was stopped by Lu Wan. Lu Wan looked at Qin Etienne, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. She said, Miss Etienne, these gifts are too expensive, really too expensive. Every one of them is priceless. We really can't accept them. I know that you're grateful to Mr. Fang, and Fang Yen will also understand, but you must take these gifts back. In Lu Wan's view, these gifts brought by Qin Etienne could be placed together as a treasure. Drawing a picture and throwing it out could cause a crazy treasure hunt in the outside world. No matter whose child she was, her parents would certainly not allow her to give these valuable collections to a teacher. Lu Wan even guessed that these gifts brought by this little girl were secretly moved out when her family was not around. At the end of the day, she was just a student. Qin Etienne laughed and said, Auntie, these are all useful things. You can just use them as ordinary things. What graphite? It's just a little stronger in color. And that rootless white lotus is not as good as a pot of plum blossoms. Just take it as a story and don't take it to heart. Since I brought them out, Auntie, you must accept them no matter what. How can you take back the gifts that you've given out? But these gifts, Auntie, don't worry. Qin Etienne comforted her with a smile. She took Lu Wan's hand and walked to another box, saying, Come and have a look at this box. Fang Yen lost several times in a row and lost all the money he had just won. He even took out his wallet and put some of his capital in it. Of course, the advantage of losing money was that Yiro no longer complained about his smelly feet and kicked him from time to time. Finally, he won another round. When he was waiting to receive the money, the cell phone in Fang Yan's pocket rang. Fang Yan apologized and put down the long cards in his hand. He took out his cell phone and found it was a call from Fang Yingying. Fang Yan answered the phone and asked, What's the matter? Junior Marshal Uncle, come back quickly. Your student has come to pay a New Year's visit. Fang Yingying said excitedly. Student? Come to pay a New Year's visit. Fang Yan's first thought was that Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin had come, because among his students, only these 2 girls had been to Swallow Dock and knew his home address. However, Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin had just returned to Huaqing before the New Year's Day, and their parents couldn't let them go to Yanjing on the first day of the new year. Besides, when he called them last night, they also said that they would return to Yanjing after the Lantern Festival. Which student would come to pay a New Year's visit to him? Junior Marshal Uncle, come back quickly. I'm busy, so I'll hang up. Fang Yingxiong shouted and hung up the phone. He dared to hang up on me? Fang Yen was infuriated. Do they still respect me as an elder? What's wrong? Something happened at home? Hearing the content of Fang Yan's call, the old ancestor put the long cards on the table and said, Go back if you have something to do. I'm also tired and need a rest. The poker field was like a battlefield and escaping was a big crime. Fang Yen said with a guilty face, Old ancestor, do you want me to play a few more rounds with you? No need, no need. I want to play cards and I'm not afraid of not being able to find a partner. Go back to your business. The old ancestor said. Fang Yen glanced at Yiro and said, It said that a student came to pay a New Year's visit. I'll go back and have a look. Yiro didn't respond and just lowered her head to play with the long cards in her hand. After Fang Yen put on his shoes and left, the old ancestor looked at Yiro with a smile and said, You little girl, Fang Yen is a guest. How can you say that his feet are smelly? What? You're unhappy because he won a few rounds? He's an idiot, Yi Rou said. He's not an idiot. He's a smart person. The old ancestor sighed softly and said, You think he keeps winning, so you're worried that I'll feel uncomfortable. But if he lets me keep winning, will I feel comfortable in my heart? Because I'm older, you guys always take care of me. You don't want to win, and she, the silly girl, pretended to play the wrong cards for me. Your father doesn't want to play cards with me, and your second and third uncles don't want to win. No one was willing to win against me. They just wanted me to win. At first I was happy, but after being coaxed by you for so many years, I feel that playing cards is meaningless. Fang Yan, that kid, didn't treat me as an outsider. When he first arrived, he tried his best to win. After he won, he lost all the money he won. He made me nervous for a while, but he also gave me a lot of face. Tell me, how can I not like him when he's so considerate towards me? Yi Rou was stunned for a long time, and then she scolded, He's a slippery guy. The old ancestor nodded with a smile and said, You're right this time. This guy is slippery. But I heard on the phone that a student came to visit him for the new year. What kind of student could come to our swallow dock? Yi Rou was also confused. She knew it couldn't be Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin she was familiar with, but she couldn't guess who it was. Suddenly, she remembered the pair of eyes that were brighter than the moonlight in the night. It had been so long, but she still had a deep memory of those eyes. Perhaps, anyone who saw that pair of eyes would find it hard to forget. Is she here? Yi Rou said softly. Who is here? The old ancestor asked. Yi Rou shook her head and didn't want to answer this question. The old ancestor gave a look, and she immediately understood and said, Old ancestor, I'm going to play with Duwan for a while. I'll be back soon. After that, she turned around and ran out of the door. Yi Rou knew that the old ancestor asked to inquire about the news, so she didn't stop her. She never forced others, and she didn't like others to force themselves. When Fang Yan returned home, Qini Tian was in the backyard paying his grandfather, Fang Huwei, a New Year's greeting. She took the cage that Eagle Mu was holding and lifted the black silk on top of the cage. Inside was a beautiful snow-white bird with a flat beak. Qini Tian handed the bird to Fang Huwei and said, Grandpa, this is a King Kong eagle. It doesn't usually make a sound, but when it does, it's like the roar of a King Kong. It can drive away evil spirits and keep people safe. Looking closely, you and the King Kong eagle look alike. They all look very majestic. Fang Huwei took the Vajra eagle and laughed. Where did this girl come from? Her words and actions are as sweet as honey. This is a good gift. With this King Kong eagle, I don't have to worry about having nothing to do all day. Fang Yan stood at the door with a bitter smile. Looking at Qini Tian's back, he said, Are you going to buy my whole family? Yes. Qini Tian answered matter-of-factly. I want them all to like me. Chapter 412. A woman like Qini Tian would be regarded as a goddess wherever she went. After Qini Tian came, she became the center of the Fang family. Her every move and smile was the focus of everyone's attention. When Qini Tian was in the living room, everyone stood in the living room to watch. Qini Tian said that she was going to visit Fang Yan's grandfather. Everyone followed her to the backyard. Of course, the closest ones were Lu Wan, Fang Yan's 3 aunts, and several other female members of the Fang family. Fang Hao, Zhao Qingxin, and Zhou Fan were men, so they were embarrassed to get too close. Zhou Mingli didn't have such scruples. He stood at the door of the cottage with a tablet computer. All his thoughts were on Qini Tian. He didn't need to say a word. He just looked at her quietly, which made people's hearts beat fast. He knew that he was in love. He decided that he would ask her name. He would write down her phone number. He would pursue her crazily. What should I do without you? Who will wipe my saliva? He thought that this idea had taken root in his heart and was indestructible. However, Qini Tian's words made him heartbroken. Qini Tian turned around naturally. Her smile seemed to light up the room, which was a little dim because of the gloomy weather. At least in Zhou Mingli's eyes, there was a hot sun rising in the room. His mouth was dry and he couldn't look straight at her. I just want them all to like me, she said. If people still had some doubts about the relationship between Qini Tian and Fang Yan before, the truth was revealed when Qini Tian said this. Everyone present looked at Fang Yan and then at Qini Tian, dumbfounded. What was the relationship between these two people? They had long felt that there was something wrong with these two people. What kind of students would empty their family's treasures just to visit their teacher? Just these things that she had sent over, even if they were used as betrothal gifts, would be enough to make a person's back bend over. What's more, this was just a New Year's gift. How big of a deal was this? Lu Wan had mixed feelings in her heart. She wanted to cry, laugh, love, and be angry. How did Fang Yan end up harming the little girl? Fang Yan's 3 aunts were also surprised, but they couldn't help but feel proud of their nephew, Fang Yan. They were naturally elated that their nephew could be liked by such an outstanding girl. Fang Hao and Zhao Qingxin were naturally full of joy. If Fang Yan really got together with this girl, it would be very beneficial to the Fang family and them. Perhaps he could borrow the other party's strength in some way. Zhou Fan's heart once again experienced an intense turmoil. Why was he so blind that he couldn't see all the good things about this kid? If it weren't for the idiotic things he said and did at that time, he wouldn't be in such an embarrassing situation in the Fang family now. He said that he would find a job for Fang Yan. The gifts Fang Yan's students sent today would probably let Fang Yan live a life of luxury for the rest of his life. Zhou Mingli's eyes turned red. He was very angry and felt wronged. He was angry that the fairy-like girl didn't like him. He felt wrong because, how could cousin Fang Yan like his student? Did he have any morality? Did he have any sense of shame? Fang Hui was still confused until now. He was chatting with an old guy in the room. He said that a little girl was Fang Yan's student and wanted to visit him for New Year's. As an old man, he couldn't refuse the kindness of the younger generation. As a result, such a beautiful, lovely and charming girl came in. Every part of her body made people feel comfortable. She said some auspicious words and sent him a priceless King Kong eagle. This kind of eagle lived in the cliffs of the northern frontier. It had a keen sense of smell and could fly thousands of miles. It was difficult to catch it unless it had been a professional eagle hunter for more than 10 years. When Fang Hui was young, he knew that the young chief had raised such a King Kong eagle. After his legs were paralyzed, he had never seen such a spiritual bird again. He didn't expect that he would get one today. Just like how a handsome guy would want a sports car, as a martial artist who wouldn't want such a battle eagle. It was also the first time he met Qin Tian, but he didn't expect the girl to be so bold. After a while he smiled and said, "Fang Yan, it seems that you're not a good teacher. You're speechless after being refuted by your own student." Fang Yan smiled bitterly and said, "It's really a headache to meet such a student." Qin Tian quickly spoke up for Fang Yan. She smiled and said to Fang Hui, "Grandpa, Mr. Fang is a good teacher. All the students in the school like him. Hundreds of people go to his lectures." "Really?" Fang Hui looked at Fang Yan and said, "It seems that you not only inherited our Fang family's talent in martial arts, but also have a strong cultural gene. It's a good thing to be well versed in both literature and martial arts. You need to keep it up." Lu Wan pulled Fang Yan's hand and signaled him to follow her to the yard. "Fang Yan, who is this student of yours? She sent a lot of gifts. Although I don't know the value, just hearing the names made my hands tremble. I said we can't accept them, but she didn't want to take them back. What should we do with these things?" Fang Yan thought for a while and said, "Mom, don't worry. I'll talk to her." "Okay, you talk to her," Lu Wan said. "We don't accept undeserved rewards. No matter how precious these things are, we can't accept gifts from others. Talk to her and ask her to take these gifts back." "Okay," Fang Yan said with a smile. Fang Yan went back to the room and said to Qin Tian, "Let Grandpa rest for a while. Let's go out for a walk." Qin Tian said goodbye to Fang Hui obediently and said, "Grandpa, I'll chat with you in a while. I like chatting with old people the most." "Okay." Fang Hui laughed. "Grandpa is waiting for you." There were also many people watching at the gate of the Fang family's yard. Fang Yan couldn't take Qin Tian out for a stroll. He had to take her to a remote place in the martial arts hall and said, "Why are you here?" "I'm here to wish Mr. Fang a happy new year," Qin Tian said seriously. "Isn't it natural for a student to wish a teacher a happy new year?" "That's true, but you don't need to bring such expensive gifts. My mother is such a gentle person and your gifts scared her. I was also scared when I saw the King Kong eagle. These are all rare treasures and you just casually took them out to give away?" "I didn't just casually take them out, each gift was carefully selected by me in the storage room." Qin Tian explained, "I'm not giving them away, I'm giving them to my teacher." Fang Yan smiled bitterly and said, "Who would give such gifts to their teacher?" "My family." Qin Tian pointed at her own face. Qin Tian put her hands in the pockets of her down jacket, kicked the snow at her feet and said, "Don't worry, I told my mother when I came, I said I wanted to visit my savior and she asked me to bring a few gifts. These were approved by my mother, I didn't steal them from the storage room. Even if I wanted to steal, I wouldn't do it so openly. Mu Ying is my mother's confidant, he won't keep my secret." "Bring them back," Fang Yan advised. "These gifts are too expensive. We can't afford it." Besides, as I told you that night, that matter is long over, and you have already repaid me. Now it is I who owes you, not the other way around. You really want me to bring them back? Yes. Then let's smash it, Qini Tian said, waving her hand. Whichever one you want me to bring back, I'll smash it. Do you want to try? How can you do that? Because I have money. Qini Tian said. What's wrong with rich people being willful? Qini Tian smiled and looked at Fang Yen with his beautiful eyes and said, in fact, these gifts are also gifts from the Qin family. Thank you for saving my life. In addition, you may not know the value of the Rubik's Cube. When the product is on the market, it can bring us huge and amazing profits. It may be an unimaginable number. I'm just recommending her. Without your recommendation, I probably wouldn't be interested in letting her see my mother, right? Qini Tian said with a chuckle. Sometimes things are so clever. Okay. Fang Yen nodded. I'll accept these gifts. I'm just keeping them for you for the time being. Qini Tian didn't want to talk about this topic with Fang Yen, and said, Mr. Fang, I came all the way from Yanjing to visit you for the new year. Do you want me to stay in your house for a few days? You don't want to? Can't we have a meal together? If you're willing to stay for a few days, it's naturally not a problem. As long as you don't mind the shabby conditions here. Fang Yen said sincerely. It's just that we don't have that many rooms in our house and you brought too many bodyguards. How about letting them go back first? I can assure you that you won't be in any danger in Swallow Dock. You agree? Qini Tian said with a smile. I thought you would find a reason to refuse. It's not a big deal to begin with, Fang Yen said. It's naturally not a problem to eat at home. Fang Yen and Qini Tian were chatting in the backyard when Fang Yingying sneakily walked over. Seeing that Fang Yen didn't say anything, he looked like he wanted to say something but stopped. Fang Yen couldn't stand it anymore and said, Fang Yingying, if you have something to say, just say it. Why are you sneaking around? Fang Yingying grinned, but his smile was very unnatural. He lowered his voice and said, Junior Marshal Uncle, Missy came to visit. Chapter 413. Yi-Ro is here? Why is Yi-Ro here? Yi-Ro was a special case in Swallow Dock. She was aloof and independent. She had a close relationship with the old drunkard, but no one knew that she had a good relationship with anyone else. In the past, no one had ever heard of her paying a New Year's visit to anyone's family, nor had she paid a New Year's visit to the Fang family. She always went through the back door when she came to the Fang family. That way she could take a shortcut to the courtyard where the old drunkard lived. Even in front of Fang Yan's grandfather, Fang Huwei, her attitude was quite cold. Because she was a woman of the Yi family, because of her temperament, and most importantly because she was beautiful and violent, everyone understood her behavior. As time went by, there were even some people who appreciated her. They felt that she was in line with the poem, There is a beauty in the north, peerless and isolated. Besides, the Yi family was prosperous, so it was not Yi-Ro's turn to socialize in public. She just needed to practice martial arts and be happy with her ancestor. Why is Yi-Ro here today? Fang Yen looked at Fang Yingying confusedly. Fang Yingying shook his head, indicating that he didn't know either. Slap. Fang Yen slapped Fang Yingying's head and scolded, You're here. Why can't you tell me? Why do you keep your voice down like a thief? Why can't you tell others about it? Fang Yingying looked aggrieved. He covered his head and said, Junior Marshal Uncle, I just don't want you to be in a difficult position. Slap. Fang Yen slapped him again and scolded even more fiercely. He said, What's so difficult about it? What's so difficult about it? No. Fang Yingying covered his head and ran away like a rat. Junior Marshal Uncle was so angry that he knew he must be in a difficult position. Fang Yen looked at Qini Tian and said with a smile, Yi-Ro is my neighbor and my friend. Today is the first day of the spring festival. She came to visit. She's pretty, right? Qini Tian asked. She's all right. Fang Yen replied reservedly, She's the prettiest girl in our village. Everyone knew that the #1 beauty of Swallow Dock was Yi-Ro. Phoenix was also very beautiful, but she did not belong to Swallow Fort. Are you the most handsome guy in your village? Qini Tian giggled and asked. Bai Xiu's loathsome face appeared in Fang Yan's mind at the mention of the word, country bumpkin. Therefore, Fang Yen slapped Bai Xiu's face out of his mind and said, They said so, but I don't care about these false reputations. What kind of village flowers and grass are they? Is there any point in lining them up here and there? Qini Tian nodded in agreement and said, That makes sense. They say I'm the prettiest girl in Rosefinch High. I don't care about this kind of thing. What class belle and campus belle? It's not like you can make a living out of comparing. After that, they looked at each other and couldn't help laughing. Fang Yin had always felt that Qin Yitian had a maturity that didn't match her age. Fang Yin also felt that Qin Yitian and he had an indescribable spiritual tacit understanding. This girl was really an angel who fell to the earth. When Fang Yin took Qin Yitian back to the house, Yiro was sitting in the living room with Fang Yan's mother, Lu Wan and Fang Yan's aunts drinking tea. Yiro was still wearing the festive cloth button gown and black cotton skirt. She didn't touch the teacup in front of her and just answered the questions of Lu Wan and Fang Yan's three aunts politely. Lu Wan asked a question and Yiro answered one by one. Lu Wan didn't speak, and Yiro didn't take the initiative to find a topic. She was calm, patient and didn't fight. She looked like a cultivator who had cultivated for thousands of years. Lu Wan's language skills were excellent, but she couldn't stand Yiro's temper. She asked a lot of questions and Yiro answered them in 2 or 3 words. For example, she said that the last time she saw the ancestor was in the summer, and she took she for a walk in the village. She hadn't seen the ancestor for a long time. How was she? The weather was cold and she had to take care of herself. Yiro's answer was only 2 words, she was fine. Another example, Fang Yan's aunt said that when Ro's dress was really beautiful. The golden stitches were fine, and the embroidered phoenix was like a real one. This dress must have been sewn by Sister Wen. The sister Wen she mentioned was Wen Xinya, Yiro's mother. Yiro's answer was still 2 words, yes. When Lu Wan and the 3 sisters of the Fang family were at their wits' end, Fang Yin finally entered the house. Lu Wan waved to Fang Yin and said, Fang Yin, when Ro is here, you young people should have a good talk. Then she looked at Qin Yitian and said with a smile, Yitian, since you are here, have fun in our swallow dock for a few days. You sit here for a while. I'll go to the kitchen and prepare lunch. Thank you, aunts. Qin Yitian said sweetly. This girl had a very high IQ. Once she made up her mind to do something, there was no possibility of failure. For example, she made up her mind to win the favor of everyone in the Fang family. I'll go to the kitchen too. Fang Yisin, the eldest aunt, said. I'll go to find Minjing and the baby elephant. I don't know where these 2 children are. Fang Yiling, the second aunt, also stood up and left. I'll go to see where numerology is. Fang Yijing, the third aunt, also ran away. Thus, only Fang Yin, Qin Yitian and Yiro were left in the big living room. Yiro sat on the sofa. She didn't drink tea, didn't speak, and didn't even look at Fang Yin and Qin Yitian. Qin Yitian stood in the courtyard with the corners of his mouth slightly raised. There was an inexplicable smile on his face, and he looked at Yiro thoughtfully. Fang Yin opened his mouth and didn't know what to say. Fang Yin felt that Fang Yingying was really a wise man sometimes. What he said really came true. It was really difficult for him to be stuck in the middle. However, it was not a solution to always be in such a stalemate. Therefore, Fang Yin turned to look at Qin Yitian and said, Do you want some tea? Okay. Qin Yitian nodded. I'll go and pour some tea for you, Fang Yin said. He turned around and ran out of the door. He felt that he needed to go to the yard and take a deep breath of fresh air. It was so exciting. After Fang Yin left, there were only Qin Yitian and Yiro in the room. Qin Yitian was still looking at Yiro with a smile, and Yiro finally raised her head and glanced at Qin Yitian. Qin Yitian walked towards Yiro and sat down on the mahogany sofa in front of her. He was dignified and elegant and had the same strong aura. Qin Yitian looked at Yiro and asked with concern, Sister, are you feeling better? I'm fine. Yiro answered expressionlessly. That's good. When I saw you last time, I was worried that there would be sequelae in your body. We are all women and our bodies are weaker than men. Sister, you must take care of yourself. Not necessarily, Yiro said. What not necessarily? A woman's body is not necessarily weaker than a man's, Yiro said. Could it be that your body is better than Teacher Fang's? I've seen Mr. Fang's kung fu is very good, indeed better, Yiro said. Sister, you're so awesome. Mr. Fang is already so powerful, but he still can't beat you, Qin Yitian praised. Sister, you must be the #1 in Swallow Dock, right? Yiro stared at Qin Yitian with vigilance. This girl set a trap with just a few words. She wanted to lead me into the ditch. If she said that she was the #1 in Swallow Dock, then where was Fang Yin? If she wasn't the #1 in Swallow Dock, then wasn't it a lie when he said that a woman's body was not necessarily weaker than a man's? Yiro picked up the teacup in front of her and took a sip of fragrant tea. She didn't answer Qin Yitian's question but said softly, Our Swallow Dock rarely has outsiders come in. The subtext was that those who came in were all outsiders. I'm not an outsider. I'm Mr. Fang's friend, Qini Tian said with a smile. Besides, Swallow Dock belongs to Wuxia. Wuxia's people can all come in. Yi Rou ignored Qini Tian's counterattack and said lightly, we guard Wuxia's Swallow Dock and we are also Wuxia's Swallow Dock. Swallow Dock is one with us. For us, those who don't belong to Swallow Dock are outsiders. Just like those who don't have the surname Qin, it's difficult to become a member of the Qin family. Qini Tian nodded and said, the general gets off the horse and the prime minister gets off the sedan chair. The people of Swallow Dock are indeed qualified to say this. But not everyone is qualified to be a member of Swallow Dock. Qini Tian crossed his hands and rubbed them gently, saying, but if there is such a person who is qualified, that person must be me, because I cherish your glory, admire your sacrifice, recognize your value, and I'm willing to go through thick and thin with you. Swallow Dock is Wuxia's Swallow Dock. Every person of Wuxia can do their part for Swallow Dock. Do you still not qualified to be a member of Swallow Dock by doing this? Qini Tian smiled and said, I've only heard that people of Swallow Dock are brave in killing enemies, but I've never heard that people of Swallow Dock are heartless to their friends. Am I right, sister? If you come, Swallow Dock will naturally welcome you. Does sister welcome me? Yi Rou was stunned. She didn't expect that he would pursue this question. She said with slight annoyance, I won't tell you. In terms of language expression, she was indeed not as good as Qini Tian, who had hidden tricks and traps in every sentence. If you were not careful, you would be trapped in them and unable to move. However, she also knew very well that this excessively beautiful girl in front of her couldn't fight with her one-on-one. Otherwise, she had 10,000 ways to make her black and blue. Yi Rou thought that she still liked Fang Yan because when she was unhappy she could beat him up. Chapter 4:14. If Yi Rou was a white peony, then Qini Tian was a red rose. Yi Rou's temperament was soft but firm. She looked white and quiet, aloof from worldly affairs. However, her appearance was magnificent, luxurious and luxurious. She had the reputation of being a national beauty, the queen of flowers. There was a poem that said, wealth and romance are the best, and all flowers bow their heads to the fragrant dust. The peony didn't compete, but no flower could compete with it. Qini Tian didn't hide. She was as passionate as fire and charming as water. Whether it was a cliff, a mountain of knives or a sea of fire, she would rush over with her eyes closed. She brought others a beautiful illusion of love by burning herself resolutely. The branches and leaves had sharp thorns, and if one was not careful, he would be stabbed by her. Now the white peony and the red rose gathered together, competing to bloom. That kind of beauty was dazzling. Unfortunately, there was no audience in the living room. Even Zhou Mingli, who fell in love with Qini Tian at first sight, was completely desperate after knowing that she liked Fang Yan. He ran to the stone river to enjoy the cool wind and pretend to be depressed. It was not the first time that they met, but it was the first time that they had a conflict. In other words, it was the first time that they communicated with each other as enemies. When Yi Rou said, I won't tell you, Qini Tian couldn't help but be a little surprised. She never thought that the tough woman who treated Fang Yan as a mortal enemy at school would have such a girlish side. If those guys who liked violence and regarded her as an idol and wanted to be whipped by her every day saw this scene, their eyeballs would probably fall to the ground. However, Qini Tian didn't feel contradictory at all. She was such a person. When she wanted to beat you, she would beat you. When she didn't want to tell you, she wouldn't tell you. In a sense, she was braver than herself, more direct than herself, and more willful than herself. Facing such an opponent, Qini Tian had a feeling of palpitation. Qini Tian was not afraid of any opponent, but in the field of love, she only hoped that they were unique to each other. Because if you cared too much, you would be afraid of failure. Even if the possibility was minuscule, they would still worry about it. Qini Tian looked straight into Yi Rou's eyes and said, don't say it if you don't want to. I already know the answer. Yi Rou knew what the answer was. Both of them were smart people, so there was no need to be too straightforward. That would only make the relationship between them more awkward. They shouldn't be enemies. Yi Rou thought Qini Tian was the prettiest girl she had ever seen. She even thought she was more beautiful than herself. Her facial features were exquisite and dazzling, like the blazing sun, like the bright moon, like the brightest star among the stars. She sparkled in the crowd. Qini Tian also felt that Yi Rou had an aura that was ethereal and pure. Clean, pure, and approachable. If it was said that his aura would make people feel oppressed and retreat 3 feet away, then Yi Rou's aura would make people feel pity and respect that they couldn't bear to disturb her. They should appreciate each other and become best friends. How could they be enemies? Thinking of this, both of them couldn't help but be fascinated. The room was very quiet, but the atmosphere didn't make people feel awkward. Two extremely beautiful girls sat there without saying a word, but it didn't make people feel strange as if it should be so. Fang Yin, who had been out for a long time, finally came back with a cup of hot tea. He put the cup in front of Qin Tian and said, "Be careful, it's hot." Seeing that the tea in front of Yi Ro was cold, he picked up the cup and said, "I'll get you a cup of hot tea." Yi Ro glanced at Fang Yin and said, "If you don't want to sit here, come in when it's time to eat." Qin Tian giggled and said, "Mr. Fang, are you afraid that I will fight with Sister Yi? I can't beat her." "Oh, how could it be?" Fang Yin wiped the sweat on his forehead and said, "I just went to the kitchen to have a look. I'm afraid that the food they make is too greasy. I know you guys don't like to eat greasy food." "I like to eat meat," Yi Ro said. "The ambush you made last time in the back mountain was very good." "I also like to eat meat," Qin Tian said. "Did you forget? In Huaqing we went to eat at Zhang Yuan restaurant. The T-bone steak there is very good." Haha, Fang Yan's smile was uglier than a crying face. "I like to eat meat too. So when I was very young I followed my friends in the village to catch sparrows, rabbits and grasshoppers. Then I cooked the ingredients myself. Tian hasn't eaten it yet. I'll take you there when I have the chance." Yi Ro looked at Qin Tian and said, "The friends Fang Yan mentioned are Yi Fengxing, Zhu Xiaodan and Li Xiaotian. They even formed a group called Swallow Fort's Pretty Men Team. Isn't it funny?" "It's really funny. So he was this childish when he was young? There are things that are even more childish. Every year when we compete, he would hug my leg and beg for mercy when he couldn't beat me, crying and yelling for me not to hit his face. No way? Mr. Fang has such a shameless side? But I've known him for a long time and I know his character quite well. There are also some things you don't know. I'll get to know him later. He lived in Swallow Fort for more than 20 years. We can't change the length of life, but we can determine the width of life. I always think the width of life is more abundant. Practicing martial arts requires constant dripping to wear through a stone. Tai Chi requires instant enlightenment." Fang Yin suddenly found a serious problem. He only cared about pouring tea for Qin Tian and changing tea for Yi Ro. He forgot that he hadn't drunk hot tea yet. No wonder he felt sweaty and thirsty. It turned out that he hadn't drunk water for a long time. "Fang Yinging." Fang Yin turned around and shouted toward the backyard. No one answered. "Fang Haohan." Still no one answered. Fang Yin shook his head helplessly as if he was talking to himself or explaining to Qin Tian and Yi Ro, "I don't know where these two guys are. They don't know how to entertain the guests and they can't find anyone to drink a cup of tea. I'll go pour a cup of tea." So Fang Yin got up and ran outside. He really couldn't stand it anymore. He sat in front of the two women and felt out of breath. These two people were talking about something irrelevant, but why did he feel that there was a hidden killing intent in every word? Moreover, he was the chicken that was being coveted by the killing intent. If you're like this, you might as well fight to your heart's content. Muing was standing in the yard enjoying the plum blossoms. Seeing Fang Yin running out, he said with a smile, "It's not easy to deal with this kind of situation, is it?" "Yes." Fang Yin sighed softly. "I'm not afraid that you'll laugh at me. I'm a shy person and I've never been in love before. I really have no experience in dealing with girls." "That's a pity." Muing reached out his hand to catch a snowflake. His handsome face was absorbed in watching the fluff-like snowflake melting in his palm. "Miss is not an easy person to deal with." Fang Yin looked at Muing curiously and asked, "How do you usually deal with her?" "Deal with her?" Muing shook his head. "I've never been able to deal with Mississippi. I do whatever she says." Fang Yin really envied Qin Tian. It was such a happy thing to have such a brainless fan. Fang Yin looked for Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan all over the yard. He felt that he needed them very much. Yi Ro, Qin Tian, Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan all knew them. Moreover, these two idiots were the spies that Yi Ro had arranged around him. Perhaps she didn't need to arrange them. They were born to be rebellious. If they could sit in the living room with him, they could talk about their daily lives, talk about the past and make jokes. Time would pass quickly. The two women wouldn't stab him in the dark and he wouldn't feel like sitting on pins and needles. However, Fang Yin looked all over the yard and didn't see Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan. They seemed to have disappeared into thin air. "Those two bastards." Fang Yin gnashed his teeth and cursed. Beside Stone River. It was a good place near the call, facing the wind and the sun. Two figures, one fat and one thin, were tightly huddled together, looking at the fire in front of them expectantly. How well is it? Fang Yingying smelled the fragrance in the air and asked. Fang Haohan sniffed hard and said, "It's well done. Open the pot." Fang Yingying shouted. Then he grabbed at the open fire above the fire with both hands like an iron rake. Fang Haohan didn't want to be outdone. He used a small iron piece to fly up and down, and the red-hot firewood was pushed aside by him. Under the fire there were several big black sweet potatoes. The sweet potatoes were covered with dust and didn't look good, but the fragrance they emitted made people swallow their saliva uncontrollably. "Brother Hero, you first." Fang Yingying modestly and politely made a gesture of invitation. "Brother Hero, you first." Fang Yingying was also very polite and gave way to the older one. Then the two reached out to grab the biggest sweet potato at the same time. "Haha, the hero chooses first." Fang Yingying grabbed the sweet potato and said, "Brother Hero, you choose first." Fang Haohan also grabbed the sweet potato and said, "You let me choose first. Let go first." "You can choose anything except this. Is this still called me choosing first? You didn't let me choose first. Do you want to fight?" The fat on Fang Yingying's face shook again. "Fight after you're full," Fang Yingying suggested. Fang Yingying felt that what Fang Haohan said made sense, so the big sweet potato was divided into half by them. They greedily ate the roasted sweet potatoes in their hands, feeling that there was nothing more blissful than this. "Brother Hero, what do you think Junior Martial Uncle is doing now?" Fang Yingying asked curiously. "He's looking for us." Fang Yingying took a bite of the sweet potato. It was so hot that his tongue rolled around in his mouth. "He's definitely looking for us to go in and flirt. Does he think we're stupid? We're not going in." "Brother Hero, if you were Junior Martial Uncle, who would you choose?" Fang Haohan asked. Fang Yingying raised his dirty fat face and thought seriously for a while. He slapped Fang Haohan's head and said angrily, "Don't ask me such difficult questions when we're eating." Chapter 4:15. Fang Haohan was slapped on the head and said with grievance, "Since we have nothing to do, let's discuss it." Fang Yingxiong took a bite of the sweet potato and chewed it in his mouth. His face was full of sadness as he said, "How can I choose? Miss Yi is beautiful, Miss Qin is also beautiful. Miss Ye's martial arts are good, Miss Qin's background is great. Miss Yi is very good to me, Miss Qin is also very good to me. Which should I choose? Which can I choose? If I choose gentle, what about heaven reliance? If I choose heaven reliance, what about gentle? No matter which one of these girls I let down, it would be an unforgivable sin. God will send me to hell." "That's true." Fang Haohan nodded in agreement. "If I were Junior Martial Uncle, I wouldn't know who to choose either. Every one of them is so outstanding, every one of them is so affectionate. Junior Martial Uncle isn't that good either. Why would they choose Junior Martial Uncle?" "That's right." Fang Yingxiong agreed. "He's handsome, but everyone says Fatso looks lucky. Skinny looks like he's lucky too," Fang Haohan added. "Yes, Fatso and Skinny both look lucky." Fang Yingying couldn't help but bring Fang Haohan along. At least they were on the same side on this issue. "And we look safe. Which girl follows us? TSK, we definitely won't have to worry about cheating. Even if she has a beautiful girlfriend, we won't even look at them. Junior Martial Uncle is funny, we aren't worse than him. Everyone laughed at the joke I told last time." "Then what's the difference?" Fang Yingying asked doubtfully. "Is it because our luck is especially bad?" "Yes. It must be bad luck," Fang Haohan said. "Also, we can't always stand with Junior Martial Uncle." "Why?" "It's not that I'm worried that others will think that he's the red flower and we're the green leaf. The key is that we're one generation younger than him. Think about it, if a girl who likes us hears that we're going to call him Junior Martial Uncle, won't she be scared away?" Yes. Fang Haohan nodded repeatedly. "That's what I said. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin had praised us for being cute, but why are you so close to Junior Martial Uncle? It's because they know that if they follow us they have to call Junior Martial Uncle, Uncle. If they grow up and marry Junior Martial Uncle, we have to call them Master's wife. Who wouldn't want such a big advantage? But we also have our own style." Fang Yingying tore off a piece of sweet potato skin and said, "When Junior Martial Uncle is now in a terrible mess like a headless fly, we're eating roasted sweet potatoes with relish. This kind of life, I wouldn't exchange it even for a fairy." "Yes, I wouldn't exchange it even for a fairy," Fang Haohan echoed. "If it's a fairy sister, I'd exchange it. Junior Martial Uncle is so pitiful." Fang Yingying sighed and said, "Yes, Junior Martial Uncle is so pitiful." Fang Haohan took a bite of the sweet potato and said bitterly, I really want to bear this unbearable suffering for junior martial uncle. Sigh. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan suddenly lost interest in talking, but the sweet potato in their hands was still sweet and delicious. When lunch was ready, the Fangs had to eat at the table. Qini Tian and Yi Ro sat together, Fang Yen sat next to Yi Ro, and Lu Wan sat next to Qini Tian. Fang Huwei sat at the main table, and Fang Yan's 3 aunts and 3 uncles sat on both sides of the table. Zhou Mingli stole a bottle of Shadaozi to celebrate his breakup again, but he got drunk halfway and was carried back by Zhou Fan. Fang Huwei looked at Qini Tian, then looked at Yi Ro and said with a smile, Eat. Just treat it as your own home. Lu Wan helped Qini Tian and Yi Ro get some food and said, You two eat more, you're too thin. Qini Tian rushed to help Lu Wan serve soup and said, It's cold, auntie, you should drink more soup to warm your stomach. She was going to ladle soup for the 3 sisters of the Fang family. How could the 3 of them dare to let this young miss do it? Her extravagance and the gifts she had sent today had really shocked them. They didn't know what was going on, but they felt that this girl was too ostentatious, but they were very happy. Every one of them was of the highest quality, and they had never heard of such treasures. Who would dislike gifts that were too expensive? Fang Yijing especially admired her sister-in-law's determination. Zhou Fan was a small leader in the unit, and when her subordinates sent some bags, branded watches and so on to her home, she would throw them back mercilessly. But if those subordinates also sent gifts like this young lady of the Qin family, such as a piece of red ink stone, a basin of phoenix coral and a big bowl of black turtle ointment, who wouldn't want to challenge their own weakness like this? Fang Yixing had to drink with guests at the Li family's house at noon, so he didn't come back for lunch. The 3 aunts of the Fangs didn't say anything, and the 3 uncles of the Fangs didn't know what to say. Even Lu Wan only talked about some interesting stories about Swallow Dock and Fang Yen under Qini Tian's lead. It had to be said that this was the dullest lunch that Fang Yen had ever had since he came back home. Fang Huwei was the first to put down his bowl and chopsticks, saying that he was full. Fang Yijing hurriedly pushed the old man back to the backyard, and then he was unwilling to go to the table again. The others didn't have such good luck. The guests hadn't left and they couldn't just leave their bowls and leave. So they could only eat unhurriedly. When others talked, they listened. When others joked, they also laughed for a while. Qini Tian and Yi Ro put down their bowls and chopsticks, and the others felt relieved as if a big stone had been lifted from their hearts. These 2 young girls actually had such power, pressuring others to the point that they couldn't breathe. Lu Wan asked someone to clean up the bowls and chopsticks and said, You young people can sit and drink tea and chat. I'll go to rest for a while, I have the habit of taking a nap. Soon, Fang Yen found that only he, Yi Ro, and Qini Tian were left in the living room. Fang Yen thought for a while and said, Let me go out with you. Yi Ro went straight to the outside and said, I'm going home. Qini Tian looked at Fang Yen and said with a smile, Although I really want to stay for a few days, I have to go back. Fang Yen knew that Qini Tian couldn't really stay. If she dared to stay in his house, the Qin family would be in chaos. Fang Yen nodded and said, I'll see you off. Fang Yen walked Qini Tian to the parking place of the training hall. Qini Tian stood still and turned to look at Fang Yen saying, Mr. Fang, when will we meet next time? I'll go back to Huaqing after the spring festival, Fang Yen said. Since you're a teacher there, you should do your job well. You must finish what you started. Qini Tian nodded and said, I can't go to Huaqing. I'll accept the new position my mother arranged for me on the 8th. But wherever you are, my eyes will be there. Fang Yen smiled bitterly and said, Take care of yourself and be careful. Qini Tian pointed at Mu Ying and said, I'll take care of myself. My safety is their job. Fang Yen looked at Mu Ying, who shrugged his shoulders and said, Don't worry. As long as I'm alive, she will be alive. If I die, I won't care so much. Thank you, Fang Yen said sincerely. What are you thanking me for? This is my job, Mu Ying said. Qini Tian walked to Fang Yen, and Fang Yen took the initiative to open his arms. Qini Tian smiled and threw herself into Fang Yan's arms. She hugged Fang Yan's waist tightly and said, I have a scar on my chest. The doctor said I can remove it with lasers or golden chrysalis muscle nourishing powder. I said I should keep it. It's a witness. Witness what? That I have the courage to risk my life for another person. Qini Tian left with her luxury motorcade. Fang Yen stood there for a long time. When Fang Yen returned home, Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan finally showed up. Fang Yen grabbed Fang Yingying and asked angrily, Where have you been? Hero was in a bad mood. I went out with him, Fang Yingying said with a sad face. His Xiaobai, What's wrong with Xiao Bai? Fang Yin asked anxiously. Xiao Bai was Fang Haohen's rabbit. The rabbit was his lover, his lifeblood. Usually Fang Yingying wouldn't even let him touch it. If something happened to Xiao Bai, it would be a heavy blow to Fang Haohen. I haven't eaten for 2 days, Fang Yingying said in pain. Fang Yingying reached out to slap Fang Yingying's head. Fang Yingying quickly dodged and said, Grandpa wants you to see him. Remember it. Fang Yin came to Fang Hui's cabin. The old man was sitting in front of the window playing with the King Kong eagle in the cage. The King Kong eagle was majestic and beautiful, but it didn't want to open its mouth to cry. It looked very noble and cold. Fang Yin said with a smile, Why did you accept such an expensive gift? It's a gift from a girl. I can't hurt her, can I? This girl is really a villain. You know you can't accept her gift, but you don't want to return it, Fang Hui said confidently. Tell me what's going on today. I don't know either, Fang Yin said helplessly. Qin Yiqian came to visit, Yiro also came to visit, so they bumped into each other. My mom said everyone should stay for lunch, and then everyone sat together for lunch. Fang Hui grinned and said, I used to worry that you were a football and everyone wanted to kick you away. Now it seems that you're a basketball and everyone wants to throw you into the basket. It's good to compete, it's good to compete. Fang Hui's eyes became stern and said, But you have to deal with this matter properly. You can't hurt the girls. Our Fang family has been guarding the family and protecting the country, and we've never done anything wrong to others. I understand. Fang Yin bowed in acknowledgement. Chapter 416. Dear passengers, Flight YY60225 from Huaqing to Yanjing is about to arrive at Yanjing Airport. Perhaps it was because of the Spring Festival, but the number of seats on the plane wasn't ideal. There weren't many passengers, so the plane seemed a bit empty. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the first-class seats in the front cabin, and many people were still whispering to each other. It seemed that something interesting was happening. Chiba Hirobumi, who was wearing a wide-sleeved white robe, and Chiba Haomu, who was also dressed with a white ribbon tied around his head, were indeed very eye-catching. The father and son were dressed differently from ordinary people, and they were silent. Ever since they got on the plane, they had closed their eyes to rest and even refused the meals and drinks provided by the flight attendants. The plane began to glide on the ground, like a silver monster charging toward the castle in front of it. Chiba Hirobumi sighed softly and said, This is Yanjing City. This is Yanjing City. Chiba Haomu also opened his eyes wide and looked at the familiar yet strange city seriously. It had wonderful stories on TV, and there were all kinds of legends and novels. He was very familiar with this city that was becoming more and more influential internationally, but this was his first time setting foot on this magical land. It's also my first time here. Chiba Hirobumi said with emotion. 20 years ago when I wanted to come, that man went to Japan first. After the battle at Hachibana Mountain, my confidence dropped to an unprecedented freezing point. I suddenly realized that the light that I was proud of and worked hard to shine in the world was so dim and insignificant. Have you seen fireflies? They also know that they can shine, and they think that they will shine brightly, but in the end they are just fireflies. Chinya Haowu looked at his father in shock. He had never told him about that battle before. Even when he took the initiative to ask, he only said a few words. Today he took the initiative to talk about it and analyzed his feelings at the time. Why was this? Just because he was going to meet his old friend again? Father, you didn't lose either. Chiba Haomu said. No. I lost. I lost. He single-handedly overturned the Dongyang Peninsula, said Chiba. That in itself is already better than us. Everyone had pinned their hopes on me, but I didn't have the power to keep it, so he won. They won with vigor and confidence. The Japanese men were speechless, and everyone was ashamed to talk about this person in this matter. This was also the reason why that person's matter was not known in Japan. Every time someone worships me and respectfully calls me the Japanese sword god, I feel guilty and uneasy. Then he put more effort into comprehending swordsmanship and climbing the path of martial arts. Because I'm afraid to see their eyes. They think you're an omnipotent god. I've been comprehending the sword for 20 years. The number of swords I can use in my heart has increased, and the number of swords I can see in my eyes has decreased. Finally, I've reached the state of being one with the sword. When I once again set foot on Huaxia's land, filled with confidence, when I wanted to challenge Huaxia's hero using the same method that he had used before. When I wanted to win boldly and vigorously, I didn't expect to meet such an opponent. At the mention of Fang Yen, Chiba Haomu was burning with anger. His face was pale and he said fiercely, "Does that kind of person deserve to be father's opponent? He won by cheating. It doesn't count." Ridiculous. Chiba Haomu's tone was unprecedentedly stern. A win is a win, a loss is a loss. How is cheating? What is cheating? The path of swordsmanship focuses on change and impermanence. If you don't even understand this, when can you understand the great way? I know you're hostile to Fang Yen, but if you have a wrong understanding of a person because of this hostility, then, whether it's in the past or in the future, the person who will lose will be you. Fang Yen risked his life to accept my challenge, stood in front of me and fought me bravely and fearlessly. How many people in Japan can do such a young talent? I know what's bothering you. You think that he used some unusual means in the process of the duel, so I lost this duel unjustly. He even threw a bomb, Chiba Haomu said with dissatisfaction. In my eyes, what's the difference between a bomb and a rock? Chiba Haomu asked in return. It's a test of a person's physical fitness and reflexes. My reaction was wrong, so he took advantage of it. That's just a tactic. Compared to that, the long sword in my hand is even more intimidating. What if Fang Yen also feels wronged? He's barehanded while I have a divine weapon. Isn't that unfair to him? Father is good at using swords. How can the god of swords not use a sword? The sword in my hand and the bomb Fang Yen used are just auxiliary weapons, Chiba Haomu said. Fang Yen must not have thought that he could kill me with just that bomb, but I have thought that the sword in my hand can cut off his limbs, split his flesh and cut off his head. Compared to the bomb, the sword in my hand is more terrifying. Chiba Haomu nodded seriously and said, "Father, I understand." It's good that you understand. Chiba Haomu looked at his son with gentle eyes. You still have a long way to go, so you must be open-minded. The bigger your heart, the greater your achievements. Yes, father. Chiba Haomu bowed. Chiba Haomu sighed softly and said, "What a pity." What's a pity, father? 3 dragons and 7 tigers, guarding the peace of Wuxia. Chiba Haomu said with a face full of regret, I only know one of them and the others are not fated to fight. What a pity. 3 dragons and 7 tigers? They're just flattering themselves, aren't they? Don't underestimate your enemy, White Azure Dragon. Is there something wrong with this name? Chiba Haomu said with a smile. If that's the case, what is your father? Chiba Haomu only now knew that the person who fought against his father was one of the 3 dragons of Wuxia, Azure Dragon. If that was the case, he really couldn't belittle this person anymore. If that was the case, what was his father? Father, you can fight with them when you come to the capital this time, Chiba Haomu advised. Chiba Haomu chuckled and said, I hope it's not too late. It's definitely not too late, Chiba Haomu said firmly. He thought that no matter what, he would let his father fight with the 3 dragons and 7 tigers of Wuxia. For a swordsman who valued martial arts as much as his life, it would be a lifelong regret if he couldn't fight with the world's top masters. The plane stopped, and the father and son got off the plane first under the guidance of the stewardess. Walking out of the airport gate, Chiba Haomu took a breath of the cold air outside and raised his eyebrows slightly. Father, what happened? The air is too dirty, Chiba Haomu said. They didn't have to wait for long before a black car with a red flag slowly stopped in front of them. Fang Yen rolled down the window and said with a smile, Hurry up and get in the car. No parking here. Thus, Chiba Haomu and Chiba Haomu opened the door and got in. Chiba Haomu was still hostile to Fang Yen, so he didn't want to talk to Fang Yen. Chiba Haomu, on the other hand, looked calm as if he didn't care about anything. Thank you, Chiba Haomu said gratefully. You're welcome, Fang Yen said. I'm not a busybody. This is what I owe you. You're a man who keeps his promise. This is the glorious virtue of our Wuxia people, Fang Yen said with a smile. That's what everyone says. Fang Yen didn't intend to take Chiba Haomu to Yanjing City. After getting off the airport highway, he drove straight in the direction of Swallow Dock. The snow on the road gradually melted, and only puddles of black water splashed by the car's tires. The wheat fields on both sides of the road also showed green shoots, weakly enduring the cold wind. Please stop by the side of the road, Chiba Haomu said. Screech, Fang Yen stopped the car nimbly and asked, Did you miss anything? No, Chiba Haomu said. Chiba Haomu opened the door and got out of the car, then walked to the middle of the wheat field. He walked very carefully, trying to avoid stepping on any green shoots. He took off his shoes and stepped on the ice and snow barefoot as if he was on a pilgrimage, seriously feeling the coldness and fertility of the land. The cold wind messed up his black hair and fluttered the corners of his clothes, but he closed his eyes comfortably. Fang Yan and Chiba Haomu stood by the side of the road, looking at his devotion to the land and respected him even more. Chiba Haomu walked back barefoot. Chiba Haomu wanted to help him carry his shoes, but Chiba Haomu said, "No need. From now on I'll be barefooted." He pulled a handkerchief from his arms and carefully wiped the mud off his feet, then opened the door and got into Fang Yan's car. Seeing Fang Yan looking at him with a puzzled look, Chiba Haomu said with a smile, "Each place nurtures its own people." Japan was an island country with strong winds and waves and frequent earthquakes. Therefore, everyone had a natural fear of nature. Their feet are unstable, and even the hand holding the sword has to be a little light. I've always wanted to experience stepping on the black soil with both feet, and trusting all my strength to the land under my feet. You don't have to worry about it being bumpy, and you don't have to worry about it hurting you. You're one with the earth, and this warm and peaceful feeling is really intoxicating. Wuxia is a place with great people. Only when the land has spirituality can a large number of heroes emerge. Chiba Haomu looked at the vast land outside and said enviously, "Wuxia people are blessed." You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.